Chapter 301. On the rooftop of a tall building. Great lightning technique. Su Xiaolan let loose a light cry. Lightning flashed through the dark clouds, leaving a series of dazzling streaks in the air. Tian Lingling's face turned deathly pale. Isn't that a little too much? Do we really have to do this? There's no other way. There are so many people, and we don't have much time. This is the only way to get Su Qianyun to come find us. Hopefully, she'll be able to detect this strange divine lightning. And Lin heaved a resigned sigh. I'll help out as well, woof. Dabai waved his paws excitedly. Gale force winds instantly swept through heaven and earth. The sudden gale force winds swept through heaven and earth, causing the tourists on the ground to scream in fright. Run. It's raining. It's raining. Why did the weather change so suddenly? What a jerk. Ow. Let's find a place to hide. The people on the ground fled in panic, but there were also some brave people who raised their cell phones and took pictures of the sky. Rumble, lightning was still exploding in the sky. It was extremely dense, like a divine sword piercing through the dark clouds, striking fear into the hearts of onlookers. Wow, what a spectacular sight. Is someone transcending their tribulation nearby? It must be some mighty figure ascending. Some people took pictures, while others recorded videos. All of them were in awe, on the rooftop of a tall building. Phew! I can't hold on anymore. I'm out of energy. Sweat was already pouring down Su Xiaolan's forehead. She was completely exhausted from unleashing her lightning techniques in succession. Hold on a little longer. Let's go big. Lightning flashed from Lin's fingers, and a mysterious ripple proliferated into the sky. Su Xiaolan nodded as a determined expression appeared on her face. The power of the true dragon erupted from her body and soared into the sky. Divine Dragon Lightning Burst. Lightning Amplification Technique. An extremely thick bolt of lightning suddenly appeared in the sky, slicing the inky black clouds in half and lighting up the entire heaven and earth. All the people who were still watching the lightning in the sky felt as if they had been blinded. Immediately afterward, an earth-shattering boom erupted, as if a true dragon had roared from the heavens. The nearby glass was even shattered by the sound of it. The people who were still watching the thunder and lightning in the sky felt as if they had gone deaf. Ah! Someone screamed in fear. Some people were so scared that they dropped their phones on the ground with a clatter. Holy shit! What kind of lightning is this? Mommy, so scary. I've never seen such shocking lightning in my entire life. A paranormal event. This is definitely a paranormal event. It had to be said that the people near the commercial street were all frightened by this terrifying lightning. There were some people who were brave in the pedestrian street, but now they all hid in the shops, afraid of being struck by the terrifying lightning. However, what made them feel strange was that after that terrifying bolt of lightning appeared, the heavenly thunder in the sky didn't seem to appear much. At this moment, on the rooftop of a certain building, Tian Lingling looked down at the fleeing pedestrians and murmured to herself, It's over, how could you guys do this? This is going to get out of hand. Meanwhile, Su Xiaolan and Lin were panting heavily as they sat back to back on the ground, clearly exhausted. Dabai was still wreaking havoc and whipping up gale force winds. Regardless of whether I can succeed or not, I've already tried my best. And Lin wiped the sweat from his forehead. I hope Su Qianyun can see this. If she can't, we'll continue. Su Xiaolan had a determined expression on her face. Tian Lingling almost blacked out upon hearing this. She still wanted to continue? Right at this moment, a mellow voice sounded from the distance. Classmate Lin, classmate Su Xiaolan. I've finally found you. Su Qianyun flew toward them atop her moonlight disk. There was an expression of excitement and embarrassment on her face. An invisibility spell formation had been set up around her body, which could conceal her from humans and equipment. However, Lin, Su Xiaolan, and the others were able to see through her at a glance. Su Xiaolan immediately stood up with excitement upon seeing this before throwing her arms around Su Qianyun, who was also flying toward them. I'm sorry, Su Xiaolan. It's all my fault for leaving without permission. I'm sorry for making you worry. How can you be blamed for this? It's all my fault. I was careless. Su Xiaolan and Su Qinyun embraced each other tightly, as if they were sisters who had been separated for many years. And Lin also wanted to give him a hug, but he couldn't do anything, so he could only stand off to the side with a sullen expression. Dabai stopped his spell formation upon seeing Su Qinyun. Tian Lingling also heaved a sigh of relief. Seeing as you've already found them, let's disperse the dark clouds in the sky. Disperse the dark clouds? Are you an idiot? And Lin looked at Tian Lingling with a disdainful expression. Tian Lingling's mouth gaped open. Huh, there was thunder and wind before, but now the dark clouds have suddenly dispersed. What do you think everyone will think? This is completely illogical. And Lin spoke with a serious expression. So what you're saying is, Tian Lingling's bright eyes widened as a thought suddenly occurred to her. Of course I'm making it rain. And Lin replied with a serious expression. Su Xiaolan and Su Qinyun were also very much in agreement with Lin's point of view, and both of them looked at him with approval in their eyes. Thus, the three of them used the dark clouds in the sky to unleash the Great Rain technique. Walala, it's raining cats and dogs. Tian Lingling's chest tightened a little. Follow science? It sounded like it made a lot of sense, but she couldn't help but feel like something was off. Bam! A slender, long-haired woman in a black casual outfit kicked open the door to the top floor and led a few cultivators toward Lin and the others. I'm Huang Shanshan, the second team leader of the National Special Operations Department. Why are you all here? Huh? The long-haired woman's words trailed off as she looked at everyone with incredulity. And Lin and the others were also astonished as they looked at this familiar woman. Hey, what a coincidence! And Lin greeted her awkwardly. Why is it you guys again? Huang Shanshan's eyes widened, and she felt the urge to beat someone up. Tian Lingling blinked. Big sister Shanshan, what do you mean by them again? Last time in Rong City, they unleashed a spell and set the entire sky on fire, Huang Shanshan snapped. Holy F *CK. No wonder they're so skilled. No wonder they don't feel guilty at all. They've done it before. Tian Lingling was also astonished. Su Xiaolan, and Lin scratched his head sheepishly. Well, special circumstances require special treatment. Let me explain. The rain gradually stopped and the dark clouds dissipated. Bright sunlight once again shone down upon the earth. The people who had been through the baptism of lightning, thunder, and torrential rain once again appeared on the streets. They were still discussing the terrifying thunderstorm. Some of them posted on their WeChat moments, while others posted on Weibo. To them, this wasn't a big deal. Posting on WeChat moments and Weibo was merely a way for them to vent their emotions and show off. As for those who had been frightened, they would grumble a little at most, and they would soon forget about it. There was no shortage of bizarre things in this world, and this incident wasn't even on the list. Any inconceivable scene could be explained by science. If they really couldn't explain it, they could just call it a promotional video for a game. Su Xiaolan, Su Qinyun, and Lin, and even that dog apologized sincerely and offered to compensate them with spirit stones. After hearing Lin's explanation, Huang Shanshan sighed lightly and didn't accept the spirit stones. Seeing as this incident wasn't too big of a deal, she only gave everyone a verbal warning and didn't pursue the matter any further. And Lin brought out a green spirit pill from his storage ring and handed it to Huang Shanshan. What are you doing? I don't accept bribes. Huang Shanshan glared at Lin. Ah, we reunited after such a long time. We should give our old friend some gifts, don't you think? This is a spirit pill of everlasting beauty. It can permanently whiten your skin and revitalize your skin. And Lin shoved the spirit pill into Huang Shanshan's hands. Huang Shanshan refused with her hands, but she accepted the spirit pill with sincerity in her heart. In the end, she reluctantly accepted the spirit pill. Humph, you didn't even greet me when you descended into the mortal world, and now you're asking me to clean up after you caused trouble. How dare you say we're old friends? Huang Shanshan pursed her lips and grumbled, but the expression on her face was a lot more relaxed. I'm going. Call me if you need anything. Huang Shanshan waved her hand, swaying her slim waist as she left. Take care, Shanshan. And Lin waved his hand enthusiastically. Huang Shanshan's personality was getting hotter and hotter, and so was her figure. Hence, Dabai was very excited. Big brother in, is she also a friend of yours? Please introduce me. Woof. Okay, I'll get you a phone first. She doesn't have a voice transmission talisman. And Lin pointed at Su Qinyun after saying this to Dabai. You too. Su Qinyun nodded with a guilty expression. Her dreamy eyes were slightly misty, making her look very lovable. And Lin sucked in a breath of cold air as he was once again stunned by her beauty. You need a voice transmission talisman too. Add me. Chapter 302. And Lin injected his aura into Su Qinyun's voice transmission talisman and asked Huang Shanshan to help him get 2 identification cards. One was called Su Qinyun, and the other was called by Doubtful. Then he bought 2 cell phones for them and got them SIM cards. After that, the 3 of them were dumbfounded. And Lin discovered a very serious problem. Neither Dabai nor Su Qinyun understood Chinese. Dabai hadn't learned it, and Su Qinyun hadn't. They were 2 complete idiots. Why would they need a cell phone? Su Xiaolan was very enthusiastic about teaching Su Qinyun how to use a cell phone. At the very least, she had to teach her how to make and receive calls. Dabai was also very eager to learn from Enlin. He carefully played with the cell phone with his thick paws and looked very excited, as if he was about to go to war. WeChat. Ding dong. A message appeared on Huang Shanshan's WeChat. Someone sent a friend request with a message. I'm by Dachuan. Accept. By Dachuan. Hello, Sister Shanshan. I'm by Dachuan. Huang Shanshan. Yes, you're in Lin's beast pet, right? By Dachuan. Yes, you do remember me. Dabai was very excited. He then sent a nude selfie to Huang Shanshan. By Dachuan. Am I handsome? Huang Shanshan. By Dachuan. What other positions do you like? I'll send them to you. Then, he sent a sexy nude selfie to Huang Shanshan. Huang Shanshan. By Dachuan. What do you mean by sending a little? However, Dabai didn't send the message. System notification. You and Huang Shanshan are not friends. If you want to talk to her, please add her as a friend first. Dabai listened to Brother An's verbal translation and jumped up. Huh? Sister Shanshan deleted me? How could this be? What did I do wrong? No, Brother must have tricked me. Woof. The typing and translation were all done by Enlin alone. Dabai felt that he had been cheated. Enlin turned his head away with a cold expression. He didn't want to talk to Dabai. Dabai handed his phone to Su Xiaolan and pleaded with an aggrieved expression. Celestial Maiden Lawn, look at the chat history. Is it really like what Big Brother said? Su Xiaolan. She glanced at it and thought that it was indeed Dabai's style, so she silently returned the phone to Dabai, too lazy to explain. When Dabai saw Su Xiaolan and Enlin's disdainful expressions, he finally realized that something was wrong with the situation. It muttered to itself, could it be that my way of picking up girls is wrong? But shouldn't girls like this be flirted with like this? Enlin's mouth twitched slightly. He had wanted to take this opportunity to make Dabai aware of its problem, but he did not expect it to be completely unaware. It was hopeless. At this moment, his phone suddenly rang. He took it out and saw that it was Huang Shanshan calling. It couldn't be. Could it be because of Dabai's teasing, so she was calling to punish him? And Lin was a little flustered, but he still picked up the phone. Hello, Sister Shanshan, what's up? I'm Lin. Huang Shanshan's angry voice came from the phone. Are Yao Mingxi and Hu Guan part of your team? Oh, yes. Lin was a little dumbfounded, and a bad feeling arose in his heart. Quick, come and get them. Those 2 people were caught performing acrobatics at the temple fair. Huang Shanshan shouted, and Lin was even more confused. What? Why are they being arrested for performing acrobatics? Huang Shanshan said angrily. Have you seen a performance of crushing rocks with their chests? Do they really use their chests to crush rocks? Have you seen a performance of swallowing swords? Do they really bite and swallow swords into their stomachs? Have you seen a performance of spitting fire? Do they spit fire directly from their mouths without drinking kerosene or alcohol? Ah. And Lin wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. I've never seen it, Huang Shanshan sneered. Everyone who participated in the temple fair has seen it. And Lin's body swayed, and he almost lost his balance. What the F***CK? Seeing that Yao Mingxi and Hu Guan didn't resist when they were arrested by the National Special Operations Department and had a good attitude in admitting their mistakes, I won't report this to the Celestial Court. I'll send you the address. Quickly go and get them and give them a good education. Huang Shanshan's voice came from the phone. Okay, I'll definitely teach them a good lesson. And Lin was a little regretful that he let them move around freely. They were just causing trouble for him. Oomph, you're adding to my workload again. Do you want die? Huang Shanshan grumbled and hung up. And Lin sighed and unlocked his phone. Then he rode on his dog toward the coordinates that Huang Shanshan had sent him. Su Xiaolan and Su Qianyun continued to stroll around the capital. It was their team leader's responsibility to bail them out, and it had nothing to do with them, so there was no need for them to tag along. Only Tian Lingling was still following in Lin, for no other reason than that Dubai was too easy to ride, within a certain detention center in the Yu province. And Lin fished Yao Mingxi and Hu Guan out of the detention center. Tears welled up in their eyes at the sight of Enlin. Big Brotherin, I'm sorry for causing trouble for you. I was the one who suggested the idea of performing acrobatics. If you want to scold me or beat me up, come at me. Hu Guan stared at Lin with a scorching light in his eyes. Big Brotherin, it's all my fault. I didn't take good care of Junior Hu Guan, and I even did something so stupid with him. I'm willing to take all the blame. Yao Mingxi stared at Lin with a look of guilt and self-blame. And Lin drew a sharp intake of breath. He was most afraid of men looking at him like this. He had goosebumps all over his body. He gave the two of them a very serious lecture, often lasting an hour. The two diehard fans were extremely engrossed in listening to their idol's lecture, and they even pulled out little notebooks to jot down the key points. Tian Lingling looked on from the side with astonishment. They were so engrossed in listening to such a boring lecture. Her worldview had been completely refreshed. Just as Tian Lingling was dozing off with her back against a bai, and Lin finally finished his lecture. You guys can go now, but be careful next time. And Lin was exhausted from lecturing, and he began to ask the two of them to leave. However, the two of them refused to budge, and they still wanted to stay with Lin. And Lin hesitated momentarily, but in the end, he still had to expend a great deal of effort to chase away the two diehard fans. What a joke! Who knew what terrible things would happen if he allowed two fanatical men to follow him alone? You're done? Speaking of which, it's really not easy being the team leader. Tian Lingling tucked her chestnut-colored hair into a bun, and a sweet smile appeared on her delicate face. Lin leaned against a bai with dejection on his face, and he didn't want to say anything. First, he had triggered lightning in the commercial district of the capital city. Then he had to rush to Yu province to rescue Huang Shanshan, and he had even been scolded twice by Huang Shanshan. Who could understand this kind of bitterness? The pressure of being the team leader, sure, was immense. Su Qianyun's problem had been resolved, and now he could only hope that Yao Mingxi and Hu Guan could exercise some restraint and listen to him. If that happened, he would be thanking the heavens and earth. After a short while, Lin's phone rang again. He looked down, and his body instantly trembled. It was Huang Shanshan again. It can't be that something bad has happened again. Lin was extremely uneasy. Hello, Sister Shanshan, what's up? Lin, is Tang Shimin one of your men? Lin faltered slightly upon hearing this. Tang Shimin was a fourth-year student, and he said he was going to look for an old friend before he left. He seemed like a very reliable person, so he shouldn't have caused any trouble. With this in mind, he could only muster up his courage. Yes, Tang Shimin is one of my team members. And Lin, you're really something. Did you do this on purpose? Sister Shanshan, what happened? Tang Shimin and the sect leader of the Huashan sect were having a sword duel on Hua Mountain, and a section of the mountain was shaved off. What do you think happened? And Lin's body went limp upon hearing this. F***CK. Why did they fight their way to Huashan? This is a very serious matter. Even though it's quite far away from the scenic area, you've still damaged the cultural heritage of the Huan nation. Hee, are you trying to push this old lady to death? I'm not going to protect you this time. Huang Shanshan's yell sounded from the other side of the phone, and Lin collapsed onto the ground in fright, and tears welled up in his eyes. What do you mean, screw you over? It's my team member that's screwing me over. Whoever wants to be the team leader can be it. I'm not doing it anymore. Chapter 303. No matter how much Enlin grumbled, as the team leader appointed directly by the Celestial Court, he still had to take responsibility for Tang Shimin's actions. Sigh, this is all fate. Enlin shook his head and sighed as he rode to Bai from the Yu province to the Shan province. At a certain detention center in the Shan province, he saw the two scammers from the Hua Mountain Sword Tournament. Tang Shimin's sleeves were shredded, and there was a bloody gash on his muscular arm and chest. The sect leader of the Hua Mountain sect, Wu Feng, had sword wounds on his calves and arms. His clothes were in tatters, and he looked like a professional beggar on the streets. According to the statistics, the damage done to the cultural and natural heritage was equivalent to 50,000 spirit stones. Both of them were responsible for this battle, so each of them had to pay 25,000 spirit stones. Tang Shimin didn't bring that much money with him, so he only had 20,000 spirit stones in his storage ring. Hence, Enlin had to pay 5,000 spirit stones in advance. After that, they had to go through all kinds of ideological education. The person in charge of this arduous ideological education was someone from the National Special Operations Department. Not only did Tang Shimin and Wu Feng have to listen to it, but even Enlin had to listen to it. After a while, they finally bailed Tang Shimin out. As for Wu Feng, he didn't have that much money, so he could only sit in the detention center and contemplate life. The elders of the Hua Mountain sect were quite enraged by the sect leader, and they decided to let the sect leader reflect for 10 days to half a month before discussing the matter of bailing him out. Before they knew it, it was already dusk. When Enlin came out from the detention center and saw the sun again, tears streamed down his face. It was as if he had been given a new lease on life. CKU, team leader, Tang Shimin, Enlin had a very eventful day. He was insulted by Huang Shanshan 3 times, went to the detention center twice, received a profound ideological education, and traveled across half of the Huan nation. Such an eventful day. It was so moving. Team leader Enlin, I'm really sorry about what happened today. Tang Shimin bowed in apology. Even though his clothes were in tatters, he still had the bearing of an elegant young master from ancient times. Enlin waved his hand. It's what I should do, but I'm a little curious. Why did you get into a fight when you went to see your friend? Tang Shimin chuckled awkwardly. Initially, I wanted to discuss some cultivation experiences with Brother Wu Feng and have a simple sparring session with him. Later on, I got angry and couldn't stop. Enlin was stunned at first. Then he rubbed the space between his eyebrows, not knowing what to say. Tang Shimin appeared to be a graceful young master, but he couldn't stop after he started fighting. Everyone was speechless. To think that Enlin had previously thought that this senior was very reliable and worry-free. It seemed that he had judged people by their appearances. Tang Shimin chatted with Enlin for a while before leaving to find another old friend of his. Enlin immediately gave Tang Shimin a few more reminders, hoping that he could continue to be a handsome young man and carry on the good tradition of a gentleman who only used his words and not his fists. Enlin was still feeling quite uneasy as he watched Tang Shimin leave. He didn't know if Tang Shimin had taken his words to heart. Tian Lingling sat on Dabai's back and played with her phone. Her well-proportioned legs swayed gently under the light of the setting sun. Fake Daoist priest, big sister Dongfang heard that you're back and wants to ask if you want to come over for dinner. She suddenly spoke as she played with her phone. Enlin shuddered upon hearing Tian Lingling's words, and a sense of happiness welled up in his heart as a die-hard fan. Dongfang Shui's beautiful voice still lingered in his ears, and he couldn't get out of his head. Perhaps this was the legendary blessing in disguise. My idol is inviting me to her house. Hee. From your expression, does that mean you've agreed? Tian Lingling couldn't help but roll her eyes at the sight of Enlin's silly grin. Of course I've agreed. I can't turn down calm, celestial maiden's hospitality, so I have to go. Enlin came to his senses and spoke with a serious expression. Tian Lingling pursed her lips and didn't say anything else. She and Enlin rode on to Bai, toward Dongfang Shui's house. and Lin downloaded all of Dongfang Shui's new songs from the past 2 years into his phone and listened to them one by one on the way. All of them were so beautiful that he was completely entranced by them. Dongfang Shui's house was a riverside villa, and the scenery was extremely beautiful. One could see the neon lights and skyscrapers on the other side of the river through the windows. The prosperity of the city combined with the tranquility of the park, giving one the feeling of being away from the hustle and bustle of the city. And Lin and Tian Lingling arrived atop their dog, and Dongfang Shui stood at the door to welcome them in a long brown dress. Her figure was lithe and graceful, and her skin was fairer than snow. She had a pair of mesmerizing eyes, and she looked up at the man in the sky with a faint smile on her face. "Long time no see, Mr. and Lin," Dongfang Shui greeted with a smile. "Calm celestial maiden, I'm so honored to be able to taste your cooking. I've missed the taste for 2 years now." And Lin leaped off to buy and greeted her with an elated expression. Dongfang Shui chuckled. "You've missed the taste of one meal for 2 years? Not taking into account anything else, your eloquence has improved quite a bit in the past 2 years. Big sister Dongfang, eloquence is nothing. Fake Taoist priest's skin is truly thick." Tian Lingling latched onto Dongfang Shui's arm with a smile. "I'm just telling the truth. I visited so many restaurants in the Kingdom of the Nine States, so I've seen a lot of things. Your cooking skills are definitely top-notch, even among immortal chefs." And Lin ignored Tian Lingling's teasing and spoke with a serious expression. Immortal chefs were a very popular occupation in the Kingdom of the Nine States. Every single one of them was a tycoon who earned money through their skills. Dongfang Shui's cooking skills really were top-notch in the eyes of someone like Lin, who had tasted all kinds of delicious food. However, there were very few high-grade ingredients on Earth, so very few cultivators were able to discover their value. If Dongfang Shui went to the Kingdom of the Nine States, she would definitely be able to earn a fortune. Dongfang Shui was a chef who was held back by singing. Dongfang Shui couldn't help but smile again at the sight of Lin's serious expression. Regardless of whether she believed him or not, she was still a little happy to be praised like this. She immediately invited Tian Lingling and Lin into the restaurant, followed by a large dog with big, round eyes. The rich aroma of food wafted through the restaurant, making Lin's stomach rumble. Dubai was drooling, and he looked like a hungry wolf. There was a table full of sumptuous dishes, and just the appearance of the dishes was enough to whet one's appetite. Many of the dishes were also exuding faint energy fluctuations, so it appeared that they had been cooked using a lot of precious ingredients. It was quite clear that Dongfang Shui had put a lot of thought into this meal. With this in mind, Lin pulled out a green spirit pill and handed it to her. "Mr. Lin, what are you?" Dongfang Shui was a little surprised. "It's been a long time since we last met, so I have to give an old friend a present. This is a spirit pill of everlasting beauty. It can permanently whiten your skin and revitalize your skin. I hope you can accept it." And Lin spoke with a sincere expression. "Oh no, you don't have to be so polite. You have to accept this spirit pill. We're old friends, so don't refuse." Thus, Dongfang Shui reluctantly accepted the spirit pill with a slight smile on her face, clearly very satisfied with it. Tian Lingling's lips twitched upon seeing this. She naturally thought back to the scene with big sister Shan Shan. The exact same pill, the exact same lines. What the F***CK? Couldn't Lin's skin be any thicker? Thus, the three of them and the dog enjoyed the meal in a harmonious atmosphere. Chapter 304. The three of them enjoyed their dinner to their heart's content. After dinner, they curled up on the sofa and watched TV. And Lin felt like the TV shows in the past 2 years were getting more and more boring. They were basically dominated by male idols who didn't have any acting skills or singing voices, and they were only supported by their good looks. If watching TV was to look at good looks, then what the hell was the point of watching TV? He himself was even more handsome than those male idols. If he really wanted to see a handsome guy, he could just look in the mirror. If he wanted to see a beautiful girl, there was an exquisite beauty sitting next to him. Oh, and she was a super talented singer who was popular all over the country. With this in mind, and Lin's interest in watching TV became even lower. Thus, he pulled out his phone and started playing Arena of Valor. Little lowly log on, Arena of Valor, and Lin gripped his phone with both hands, eager to try it out. Tian Lingling glared at Lin. Why do you suddenly want to play this game? Because I want to torture you. Let's fight one-on-one. And Lin replied very bluntly. Do you think this kind of provocation will work on me? Tian Lingling sneered. What, you don't dare? Very well. You've successfully angered me. Die, you piece of trash. Tian Lingling glared at Lin, logged on, and invited him to battle. An intense battle began. Then, Tian Lingling was completely crushed. She was utterly defeated. She was dumbfounded. Holy F***CK. When did you become so strong? Impossible. This is impossible. She was a veteran player, and her game sense and mechanics were both top-notch. However, she was killed over and over again against Lin, and she was defeated over and over again. Tian Lingling was on the brink of a mental breakdown as she looked at these devastating numbers. I'm going to torture you. And Lin smiled triumphantly. Tian Lingling would never know what kind of opponent he had been fighting for the past 2 years. It was said that adversity and despair were the best ways to hone one's skills. His monstrous one-on-one skills had already been honed through his battles with the young sorceress. He had to pay for what he had done. And Lin, who had been abused so many times, finally had the chance to abuse back. For a moment, he was a little happy. Fake Taoist priest. The group seems to be discussing Changbai Mountain as well. Does this have something to do with your mission? After giving up on the battle, Tian Lingling sat on the sofa with her legs crossed, looking at the messages on WeChat with a gloomy expression. And Lin was slightly taken aback when he heard this and immediately entered the group of cultivators. The group became lively again because of a certain matter. The Northern Chill spiritual master said, this time, the energy veins of Changbai Mountain and the corpses and ghouls have affected a very large area. I'm afraid that a rare treasure has descended into the world, or some ruins have been opened. The Savior, we can't miss this. Who's willing to form a team and come with me? Green River Sword Immortal. I want to go. My sword is thirsting for blood. Dreamy Voice Fairy, count me in. Enlightened Lazarite, +1. Golden Jade, +1. White Spirit Snake. Seniors, I want to go too, can I? And Lin didn't know what to say as he looked at the messages one after another. The phenomenon mentioned in the messages was most likely caused by the opening of the Shouyang tomb. After the gate was opened, only 10 people would be able to enter the tomb. There were 8 people in their university and 2 people in the mortal world. No matter how hard the others tried, they probably wouldn't be able to enter. And Lin obviously couldn't say this out loud. After all, he had signed a confidentiality agreement with the Celestial Court, which stipulated that he couldn't divulge any information regarding the tomb to the cultivators on Earth. Even Tian Lingling only knew that they were going to Changbai Mountain for a mission, but she didn't know the details. And Lin stroked his chin. He was starting to get a little curious as to which 2 cultivators in the mortal world had received the invitations. Apparently, the Celestial Court had decided on those 2 invitations from the mortal world. After the decision was made, they would have those 2 cultivators contact Lin. After all, Lin was the team leader for this mission. He hadn't received any news yet. It looked like they hadn't decided on who to send. The Shouyang tomb had a cultivation-based restriction. Only cultivators below the soul formation stage could enter. If the Celestial Court wanted to decide on who to send, it would definitely be to nurture more talented cultivators. It wasn't a matter of who had the highest cultivation base. As such, only the most talented cultivators in the mortal world would have a chance of getting this opportunity. All of the most talented cultivators were in the All Cultivators of the World Unite to Protect Earth group chat. And Lin clicked open the list of members and scrolled through it with interest. Green River Sword Immortal? This guy's aptitude was indeed quite good. He had progressed from Spirit Nurturing Initial Stage to Spirit Nurturing Intermediate Stage in just 2 years. Just from the speed at which he progressed, he was superior to most of the students in Xiaoxian United University. Red Fox, Celestial Maiden who didn't know how to speak? Apparently, she had an innate spirit body and could assume human form from birth without cultivating. She was a prodigy among the fox tribe and had a very good chance of being chosen. There was also the savior, lightning master Zhang Wan, talisman prodigy Chun Jingten, and Lin looked through the names in the group and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. There were quite a lot of prodigies in the mortal world. Right at this moment, Tian Lingling's phone rang. It was from an unknown number. She was a little confused as she answered the call. Hello? What? Tian Lingling had been resting her head on Dongfang Shui's shoulder with a lazy expression on her face. However, in the next second, she bounced up like a carp, and Lin looked at her with a curious expression. It was a very interesting sight to see the various expressions on her face. Okay, I'm not scared, I'll go. Here. No need, he's right next to me. All right, I'll give you the address. Tian Lingling hung up the phone and looked at Lin with a peculiar expression. Why are you looking at me like that? Lin blinked curiously. Tian Lingling pursed her lips and forced out 2 words with difficulty. Team leader. Huh? Lin's eyes widened in shock. Then, as if realizing something, his pupils contracted and he exclaimed in surprise. Holy F***CK. It's you. Tian Lingling nodded. Yes, it's me. Dongfang Shui was completely perplexed. What are you guys talking about? It's a secret. The 2 of them replied at the same time. Both of them faltered upon seeing this. And Lin scratched his head awkwardly while Tian Lingling pursed her lips and averted her gaze. Dongfang Shui. Right at this moment, and Lin's phone rang. He answered the phone and said, Hello. A shriek of joy suddenly sounded from the other side of the phone. Ah, the Poison Lord really picked up. I'm so happy. And Lin's lips twitched. Who was this woman? Could it be a harassing call from some retarded superfan of the mortal world? Ahem. Who are you? What do you need? He thought for a moment before deciding to hang up the phone and see what the woman had to say. I'm White Spirit Snake from the group chat. Do you remember me? Wah. I've already added you as a friend, but you haven't accepted. Can't you see? And Lin rolled his eyes. So it was because she couldn't add him on WeChat that she was now harassing him with phone calls? Sigh. Being famous really was a bad thing. All right then, I'll add you as a friend. I'm hanging up now. He didn't want to waste any more time and decided to hang up the phone first. Hey, Senior Poison Lord, wait. I'm still a cultivator who entered the Shou Yang tomb. Can you tell me what's going to happen next? The urgent voice sounded from the other side of the phone again, and Lin's hands trembled slightly, and he was completely dumbstruck. Holy F***CK. You were the last one? Chapter 305. It's me. I finally get to see Senior Poison Lord. I'm so excited. White Spirit Snake's excited voice sounded from the other side of the phone, and Lin heaved a faint sigh before giving White Spirit Snake a rough outline of where they were to gather in 5 days. He then forcefully hung up the phone. Why did he say forcefully? That was because White Spirit Snake was in such a feverish mood that if Lin didn't hang up, she could go on and on for an entire day. After hanging up the phone, a forlorn expression appeared on his face. The team that would be entering the Shouyang tomb had finally been decided. The 2 cultivators chosen by the Celestial Court gave him quite a surprise. He had always thought that the ones to enter the tomb would at least be of the spirit nurturing stage, but who would have thought that the Celestial Court would choose 2 cultivators of the Tao body stage to enter the tomb? Tian Lingling's aptitude was indeed very good. This was something that Lin could also empathize with. However, wasn't White Spirit Snake a newbie who had just joined the group? Rumor had it that she was only of the 7th stage Tao body. Sending her into the tomb would be suicide. Sigh. It looked like he would have to spend some effort to protect them. With this in mind, a sense of responsibility as the team leader welled up in his heart. Tian Lingling quickly calmed herself down after learning of this important news. She opened up a bag of chips and munched on them while watching TV. Her legs were curled up on the sofa, and her cheeks were bulging from the chips, making her look like a squirrel chewing relentlessly. Dongfang Shui blinked her beautiful eyes. She knew that this wasn't something she should know, so she didn't mention it. Instead, she brought out a bunch of fruits for Lin and the others to sample. All in all, it was a very enjoyable night. There were still a few empty rooms in Dongfang Shui's mansion, so Enlin and Tian Lingling decided to stay at her place. Enlin also asked for a laptop from Dongfang Shui, saying that he could use it to surf the internet. Dongfang Shui didn't think much of it and lent her laptop to him. In the dead of night, in a certain room in the villa, Enlin and Dabai huddled together. Both of them were breathing rapidly. Big Brother and the hundreds of nude portraits of beautiful women you were talking about are in this machine? Dabai pointed at the laptop with a nervous expression. That's right. Don't underestimate the intelligence of humans. Not to mention hundreds of portraits of naked beauties. I can even get videos of them. Enlin said solemnly. Is video the moving images on the TV? Heavens, how could there be such a good girl? Woof. Dabai's big, round eyes widened, and he couldn't help but stick out his tongue. Yes, this world has no shortage of goddesses who benefit the majority of single men. It's also for the benefit of single dogs. Woof. This is a love that transcends national boundaries and races. Boundless love, woof. The two of them began to sing one another's praises. At the same time, images of naked beauties began to appear on the computer screen, and both of them began to get excited. Mitsuru Aoi, Yui Hitano, Maria Ozawa, Ai Chiani, Miku Ohashi, Kira Asaka, Mafe Nanjo, Sho Higashino, Rina Hasegawa. Holy F *CK. Big Brother, and these women are all top grade. Woof. Of course, I picked them with great care. This woman is so great. I want her TV. Woof. All right, I'll download it right away. Wow, this woman is also very righteous. I also want her TV. Woof. All right. All of you are coming. This was an exciting night for Dabai. He had never seen so many nude beauties in his life. Dabai was full of praise for the cultural industry on Earth, and he felt like he had made the right decision to come to Earth. What an eye-opening experience. The next morning, Dongfang Shui had prepared an exquisite breakfast of steamed buns, dumplings, and noodles. Tian Lingling and Lin and Dabai ate with gusto. It was great to have a friend who knew how to cook. One had to realize that eating was the #1 joy in life, and Dongfang Shui had satisfied this joy for Enlin. After enjoying the delicious breakfast, Enlin rode on Dabai's back toward the capital city. Enlin had parted ways with his father in a hurry yesterday, and they hadn't had enough time together yet. Hence, his first destination this time was still the North Mist Mountain. As for Tian Lingling, after playing around with Dabai, she chose to stay at Dongfang Shui's house for a few days. On the North Mist Mountain, the formation was opened, and a man riding on a dog descended from the sky. Mr. Enlin, I didn't think you'd be here today. Shall we have some tea and chat? A middle-aged man saluted with a smile. This man was a Mingchuan's teacher, Cui Jia. When Enlin left in a hurry that day, he hadn't had a chance to chat with him yet. Now that this was a rare opportunity, he naturally wasn't going to let it go. Sure, tell my dad to come along as well, Enlin said with a hint of interest in his voice. Cui Jia faltered slightly upon hearing this. Didn't Ming Chuan tell you that he went on a mission? What? My dad went on a mission? What mission? Enlin blinked in surprise. He had come here on his dog early in the morning, thinking that his father was a 5th-stage Dao body cultivator, so he should be cultivating on the North Mist Mountain. Who would have thought that his father would go on a mission? Cui Jia smiled lightly. Our nation's Special Operations Department will often issue missions related to the cultivation world. These missions aren't mandatory, and it's up to you whether you accept or not. Your father accepted a mission to investigate the vital energy abnormalities in Changbai Mountain, and Major General Cheng Ying is leading the team. It's not a dangerous mission, so don't worry. It's related to Changbai Mountain. Enlin furrowed his brows. Other people might not think this was a dangerous mission, but he knew the inside story. This was a phenomenon that would occur on the eve of the opening of a celestial immortal's tomb. There were too many variables involved, and he couldn't let his guard down. Uncle Chui, I've decided to go to Changbai Mountain to see what's going on. Let's have some tea later. Enlin decided to leave after some thought. Hey kid. Cui Jia tried to persuade him to stay. To his surprise, Enlin flew off on his dog and disappeared into the clouds in the blink of an eye. It's just a normal mission. Look at how nervous he is. Ming Chuan sure has a good son. Cui Jia sighed with envy before returning to the pavilion. Changbai Mountain Range. This was the sacred mountain of the Manchu tribe, as well as the border between the Hua Nation and the Korea Nation. There was a mountain village isolated from the rest of the world within this endless mountain range. Dozens of villagers howled in a low voice and pounced toward a group of outsiders without any regard for their own safety. Their eyes shone with a crimson glow. Although these villagers looked sluggish, their movements were extremely fast. They were like the most bloodthirsty, ferocious beasts, and they unleashed the explosive power of their muscles to the extreme. This kind of momentum was enough to kill a cow. However, the group of 15 people were not afraid at all. They drew their weapons and fought head-on. Vital energy surged, and each of them was like a peerless expert. They easily broke through the charge of dozens of people and killed these crazy humans on the spot. One of the women in the group was knocked down by a crazed villager. Immediately afterward, 2 villagers opened their black claws and bit toward the woman on the ground. Right at this moment, a blue sword ray flashed past. The 2 villagers with sinister expressions froze on the spot and were turned into ice sculptures. Lu Shui, are you all right? A handsome middle-aged man gently stretched out his hand and pulled the woman up. I'm fine, thank you. Big brother, and a light blush appeared on Lu Shui's face as she looked gratefully at the middle-aged man. She was of the 7th stage Dao body, but in Ming Chuan, who was of the 5th stage Dao body, performed much better than her in the face of these crazed villagers. Aside from the fact that in Ming Chuan had the blue frost sword as a divine weapon, there was also a very important reason why there was such a disparity between the 2 of them. The combat power of this team was very strong. The cultivation bases of the 15 cultivators were not weak, and it did not take long for them to suppress all the rioting villagers. A brawny man with a solemn expression inspected the auras within the bodies of the villagers, upon which his brows furrowed. This is a top-grade zombie poison infection. The person who released the poison has a very high cultivation base. We need to request reinforcements from our superiors. General Chung, even someone of your cultivation base can't handle this? Lu Shui asked in surprise. She knew that Chung Ying was a powerful being of the spirit-nurturing intermediate stage, which was one of the most powerful cultivators in the National Special Operations Department. Just how powerful was the enemy that he had to be to request reinforcements? Chung Ying shook his head. This type of zombie poison can allow an ordinary person to unleash a power that is over 10 times greater than their physical body. The person who released the poison is definitely a top-grade zombie king. I can't fight unprepared. Top-grade zombie king? Everyone felt a chill run down their spines upon hearing this. They knew that if the enemy really was a top-grade zombie king, then aside from Chung Ying, everyone else would most likely die here. Right at this moment, and Mingchuan's phone began to ring. Hey, little Lin, why are you suddenly calling? Your dad's on a mission. What? I sent you my location. You want to come over? No. This mission is very dangerous. We're already calling for reinforcements. You think you're bad *SS? What the hell are you talking about? And Mingchuan's words were overheard by everyone present, and they all wore curious expressions on their faces. In the end, and Mingchuan hung up the phone in resignation. He sent his location on WeChat before making his way over to Chung Ying. General Chung, my son says he wants to come and help us. He also says that there's no need to call for reinforcements. Even if the enemy is a god, he'll kill it for us. Chung Ying. Chapter 306. All of the team members felt as if 1,000 horses were galloping in their hearts upon hearing this. How dare you say such pretentious words out loud? Uncle, don't you feel embarrassed at all? Then, something even more ridiculous happened. Chung Ying thought for a moment before nodding in agreement. All right, since Mr. and Lin is coming, I won't call for reinforcements. All of the team members were dumbstruck upon hearing this as they stared at their team leader in shock. Chung Ying actually believed a pretentious statement like, even if a god comes, I'll kill him. Chung Ying was different from them. He knew more about Lin, and he had a more comprehensive understanding of him. Hence, he had reason to believe that Lin would be able to take care of everything. Lin was their most powerful ally. Lu Shui nudged in Mingchuan with a curious expression on her face. Big brother, who is your son? And Ming Chuan smiled lightly, but there was an expression of undisguised pride on his face. I can't reveal his identity, but I can reveal one thing to you, which is that this blue frost sword was given to me by my son. What? That's a spirit tool. Lu Shui drew a sharp intake of breath as her eyes widened with incredulity. Spirit tools were considered divine weapons in the Huan nation's cultivation world. Even cultivators of the spirit nurturing stage couldn't possess a spirit tool, let alone cultivators of the Tao body stage. However, that person had gifted a spirit tool to her. What kind of extravagance was this? Your son is so powerful, she exclaimed after a moment. It's just so, and Ming Chuan replied indifferently. Lu Shui. At this moment, Cheng Ying spoke again. The vital energy of Changbai Mountain is fluctuating, and the energy of heaven and earth is converging toward the mountain range. This village that has already been invaded by the zombie king should be the place where it refined its corpse puppets. It's just that the corpse puppets haven't even been fully formed yet. So if we kill them, the zombie king will most likely return in a fit of rage. Mr. and Lin hasn't arrived yet, so let's find a place to hide. Everyone nodded in agreement when they heard this. They did not have much hope for the person who came to support them, and it was impossible for them to foolishly stand on the spot and wait for the corpse king to appear. However, as soon as Cheng Ying finished speaking, a cloud of black fog formed a barrier that enveloped the surroundings. A tender laugh suddenly rang out, filling the entire space. First, you came to destroy my pet, and now you want to play hide and seek with me. You bad guys really know how to play rumble. An extremely powerful aura came from afar, suppressing everyone to the point of suffocation. Everyone be careful. The black fog is corpse poison. Don't touch it. Cheng Ying shouted. At the same time, he pulled out the red long saber and looked forward as if he was facing a great enemy. Don't resist. Obediently become this servant's corpse puppets, and this servant will give you a quick death. A woman passed through the black mist and slowly walked over. She said with a charming smile. She had a charming face, and her long black hair reached her waist. Her upper body was bare, and her breasts were surging. She wore a grass skirt around her slender waist, revealing a pair of long and sexy legs to the air. Everyone looked at this woman's voluptuous and enchanting body, but there was no trace of passion in their hearts. Instead, they felt a bone-piercing chill. This was because her skin was black with a hint of white, and a rich aura of death emanated from her body, making it difficult for them to breathe. Two golden-skinned men followed behind her like puppets, and their eyes were dull and lifeless. Cheng Ying sensed the woman's boundless aura and knew that he was no match for her, but he still stood in front of everyone with a determined expression. Don't act recklessly. Leave the corpse king to me. He held his saber in front of his chest as he spoke with a sharp expression. What an adorable human. Your expression is not bad. The long-haired woman clutched her smooth, lower abdomen and chuckled. But who told you that I'm a corpse king? The woman's pupils suddenly turned a boundless black. Immediately afterward, a surging and violent aura crashed down upon everyone like a mountain. Tens of thousands of wailing ghosts and demonic corpses suddenly appeared in a radius of 15 feet around her. There was even a black dragon formed from corpse energy that bared its fangs and brandished its claws. This is a domain. Cheng Ying's body shuddered, and he was no longer able to maintain his composure. Domain? Could this be the legendary soul formation stage? It's over. We encountered a corpse goddess. What kind of sh**tty luck is this? How did we encounter a soul formation stage enemy during a mission? There's really no way to escape now. Expressions of despair appeared on the faces of the dozen or so team members as they sensed the terrifying aura unleashed by the woman's domain. Lu Shui's features were deathly pale. She had never encountered such a powerful enemy before, and she could only stand rooted to the spot, completely at a loss for what to do. Is this the soul formation stage? And Mingchuan's expression was grave as he gripped his blue frost sword tightly. His body trembled involuntarily as he stared at the woman before him. This was an instinctive reaction to the massive disparity in power between them. Hee, don't be nervous, my dears, I'll be very gentle. A seductive smile appeared on the woman's face as her seductive eyes wandered over the dozen or so team members who were huddled together. In the end, her gaze settled on the long sword in Mingchuan's hand, and a peculiar expression appeared on her face. Oh, it looks like there's something good here. I've struck gold this time. Go and get that long sword for me. The corpse goddess issued a command, and the two golden-skinned corpse puppets suddenly sprang into action before pouncing toward Mingchuan. Don't even think about touching Mingchuan. Cheng Ying wielded his crimson saber and positioned himself in front of Mingchuan as he slashed toward the golden corpse puppets. The two golden corpse puppets didn't even try to evade. Instead, they threw punches toward the crimson saber. The crimson saber was imbued with scorching flames as it clashed with the golden corpse puppet's fists. Energy exploded forth, shattering the ground within a radius of 30 feet. Cheng Ying was forced back a few steps by the terrifying force, and he threw up a mouthful of blood. The two golden corpse puppets stood on the spot with a white mark on their fists, but aside from that, they were completely unscathed. The difference in power between the two was immediately apparent. How is this possible? Cheng Ying didn't think that even the corpse puppets refined by the corpse goddess would be more powerful than him. How was he supposed to fight this battle? Sai, why are you so slow? I can't wait any longer. Let me do it myself. The corpse goddess licked her lips with her pink tongue, and the black mist around her body transformed into two roaring black dragons that pounced toward Mingchuan with unstoppable force. The black dragons were imbued with the boundless power of destruction and death, and even the ground in their wake was corroded and blackened. The air became dark and viscous, striking despair into everyone's hearts. The corpse goddess smiled lightly. Even if Cheng Ying was standing in front of her, she would still be killed in an instant. Some of the team members had even collapsed to the ground with deathly pale faces at the sight of the oncoming black dragons. And Mingchuan was still facing the two black dragons. Even though he was nervous, he wasn't in despair because he knew that they hadn't lost yet. You dare to attack my father? Die! An enraged roar pierced through the black mist spell formation and exploded in everyone's ears. Immediately afterward, a golden fist enshrouded in lightning descended from the sky and shattered the unstoppable black dragons. Wind King crushing pressure. Woof! A terrifying gust of wind crashed toward the corpse goddess, who was caught off guard. Immediately afterward, a white figure abruptly charged toward the corpse goddess, tearing through the corpse demon domain and knocking her to the ground. A pair of massive white paws locked tightly onto the woman's wrists, and a large but was pressed against the woman's smooth and flat abdomen. All of the team members, including Cheng Ying, drew a sharp intake of breath as they stared at the newcomer with incredulity etched on their faces. That insufferably powerful corpse god was actually knocked down by a giant white dog in an extremely accurate posture. And Mingchuan stared blankly at the figure on the white dog's back. That figure gave him a sense of security. His son had grown up. Before everyone had a chance to heave a sigh of relief, a sudden turn of events took place. The massive white dog seemed to have been severely wounded, and blood splattered into the air. All of the team members immediately tensed up, knowing that the corpse goddess had retaliated. A cry of surprise then sounded. Holy F***CK. Big brotherin', why isn't she wearing any clothes? That's insane. Woof. Everyone. Chapter 307. F***CK off, you perverted dog. How can you have a nosebleed just from looking at a zombie? F***CK off, I don't have a beast pet like you. And Lin was enraged by the sight of Debai's nosebleed. His flashy entrance had been ruined just like that. How could he not be enraged? The zombie goddess was pushed to the ground by Dabai, and a hint of rage and humiliation appeared on her face. F***CK off. She roared as blue energy erupted from her body, sending Dabai and Enlin flying. Dabai, you take care of those two golden corpse puppets. I'll take care of this female zombie. Enlin drew his evil-slaying sword and instructed. Bai reluctantly glanced at the sexy female zombie. That seductive face, voluptuous chest, slender waist, plump buttocks, slender legs. Last night, he had seen hundreds of naked beauties, but none of them had a better figure than the one in front of him. He swallowed nervously. Big brother, and can't we switch? Switch my A***S. Do you think you can defeat a soul formation stage cultivator? And Lin snapped at the sight of Bai's unwillingness to give up. Stop embarrassing me. Do you think everyone doesn't know you're a pervert? Oh. Bai flew back to Mingchuan with a dejected expression. He stood in front of everyone with Cheng-Ying and wiped the blood from his nose. The zombie goddess stood up and glowered at Lin with her inky black eyes. How dare you treat me like this? Don't blame me for letting you experience the pain of 10,000 yin devouring your heart. Her voice had only just fallen when a dark blue mist began to revolve around her body. This mist was imbued with the power of extreme frost, causing the air to freeze and the surrounding forest to be covered in a layer of frost. All of the team members nearby couldn't help but shiver in the cold. Ding dong. Right at this moment, the system in Lin's mind suddenly lit up. It was the special mission tab again, and it was flashing with a golden light. He immediately opened up the special mission and began to inspect it. Detected that host is in contact with the frosty energy of extreme yin, now assigning the following mission. To absorb the frigid yin chi from the corpse goddess and complete the activation of the yin god. The method of absorption was to circulate the energy absorption technique through mouth to mouth. Mission success. Activate the first stage of the yin god cultivation technique. Mission failure. Become a frozen man for 3 days. Note, the time limit for this mission is 1 hour. Yin and yang techniques are hard to come by, so treasure them. And Lin, after reading this special mission, he didn't know where to start complaining. After metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, and spirit cultivation, the yin-yang series finally had a cultivation method. But should he be happy that he had a new cultivation method? The F***king condition was a kiss on the lips. Although the zombie goddess was quite pretty, was he really going to kiss her on the lips? Why get pregnant if I kissed her? Looking at the ferocious corpse god who was about to attack him, he felt a sense of frustration in his heart. Myriad Ean's soul-locking sword. The corpse goddess gripped the air, and a dark blue sword materialized in her hand. In that instant, it was as if everything between heaven and earth had been frozen solid. Only her body was as fast as the wind as she pounced toward Lin, and the sword in her hand slashed toward him with the wails of a zombie. And Lin came to his senses and used the 6 strikes of the war god to block the corpse goddess sword strike. Boom! The entire earth crumbled as a storm of extreme frost erupted in all directions, freezing all of the plants within a radius of 500 meters. Cheng-Ying used his flaming saber formation to block the shockwaves for everyone, but he was also forced into retreat by the frosty energy, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Big brotherin, do you think Senior and Lin will be able to defeat the corpse goddess? Lu Shui clenched her fists tightly as she watched the battle unfold before her with a nervous expression, and she couldn't help but lean toward Mingchuan. And Mingchuan felt a little strange to hear himself being called Big Brother Chang'an, but his son being referred to as Senior. However, his confidence in his son had never wavered, and he immediately offered words of consolation. Don't worry, didn't my son say that? Even if he's a god, he has to kill him for us to see. All the other team members also turned their expectant eyes toward Lin upon hearing this. Even though the anxiety in their hearts wasn't alleviated by much, they knew that this was their only hope of survival. On the battlefield, Lin seemed to have fallen into a passive position. The zombie goddess blue sword projection lashed out relentlessly, and each and every one of her sword strikes threatened to freeze everything in its path. Lin could only use the evil-slaying sword to keep the zombie goddess sword strikes at bay, and he was completely unable to retaliate. All of the team members thought that the corpse goddess was too powerful, and all of them were watching the battle with tense expressions on their faces. Meanwhile, Bai, who was battling the golden zombie puppet, was extremely perplexed. Dabai was the most familiar with Enlin's power, and he knew that Enlin could use 6 of the 6 strikes of the war god to kill the corpse goddess. What was Big Brother doing? No one knew what kind of F***ed-up situation Enlin was in right now. To kiss or not to kiss? He looked closely at the corpse goddess to discover that she had a beautiful oval face and an extremely sexy figure. Her skin was fair with a hint of dark blue, which was clearly imbued with extremely powerful glacial energy. Big Brother can't hold on much longer, can he? Let me add some more fuel to the fire. The corpse goddess licked her translucent lips with her pink tongue as she swung her blue longsword with even greater ferocity at the sight of Enlin's sword strikes. The corpse goddess's snake-like waist was also writhing violently, and the 2 snowy mounds on her chest were dazzling to behold. Enlin finally couldn't help but let loose a torrent of abuse. F***ck off. Don't push me too far. His aura suddenly transformed, and a white gust of wind enshrouded his inky black, evil-slaying sword as he sliced through the corpse goddess myriad, Ian's soul-locking sword like a bolt of lightning. The corpse goddess's heart jolted with shock. She didn't expect Enlin to have such a terrifying sword technique up his sleeve. However, before she had a chance to react, Enlin's second sword strike had already been unleashed. The evil-slaying sword tore through the air and punctured her arm, upon which blue blood gushed forth. In the next instant, Enlin abruptly pounced toward the corpse goddess and pinned her to the ground. At the same time, his hands locked tightly around her wrists as he pressed his body against her 2 perky peaks. All of the team members' eyes widened upon seeing this. Dabai, who was in the process of twisting the golden corpse puppet's head off, stared blankly at Enlin with his mouth gaping wide open. This posture of falling down was actually so precise, even more precise than it. The corpse goddess' pupils contracted slightly as she stared blankly at the man before her. Screw it. Enlin took a deep breath and activated an energy absorption technique. Then, he lowered his head and inched closer to the woman's sexy lips. The woman's lips were a little pale and translucent, so they should be a little cold to the touch. The corpse goddess opened her mouth slightly and exhaled a cool breath that lingered between Enlin's nostrils. Enlin felt like if he kissed her lips, they would be like jelly from the fridge, tinged with a hint of sweetness and coldness. However, that wasn't the point. The point was that his lips were already less than a centimeter away from the corpse goddess's. All of the team members were completely dumbstruck as they stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before their eyes. Lu Shui and Cheng Ying were also dumbstruck and had even forgotten to breathe. And Ming Chuan had also become a statue. Dabai felt as if he had discovered a new continent. Even the zombie goddess, who had always been unrestrained and unrestrained, was completely dumbfounded and had forgotten to do anything. Chapter 308. Just as Enlin was about to kiss her, the image of Su Xiaolan's beautiful features surfaced in his mind. A thought suddenly appeared in his mind. No, how could he give his first kiss to a zombie? Enlin faltered upon hearing this. He could still feel the icy warmth from those sexy lips that were only inches away from him. He could also see the confusion and astonishment on the woman's face. Soon, the zombie goddess's glazed eyes regained clarity, and the blue frosty energy around her body exploded forth. Enlin was blasted flying by this energy, and his flesh and blood seemed to have been frozen solid as he tumbled to the ground. The zombie goddess stood up, and her body was trembling slightly. Her voluptuous chest rose and fell with her rapid breathing as she stared at Enlin with her inky black eyes. Everyone fell into a peculiar silence again. No one dared to say anything. They couldn't see clearly what the situation was like right now. No one has ever dared to make such a move on me. The zombie goddess squeezed a seductive smile onto her face as she caressed her lips with her slender fingers. You sure are a lustful man. Seeing as how passionate you are, I'll spare your lives for now. Goodbye, a seductive voice sounded, and she winked seductively at the collapsed Enlin. Then, she stepped onto the black mist beneath her feet and quickly retreated in retreat. Don't run. Enlin crawled up from the ground as wings of wind sprouted from his back. He knew that the zombie goddess had realized the difference in power between them and had decided to escape. However, there was no way he was going to let the zombie goddess go under these circumstances, so he immediately gave chase. At this time, the black corpse aura that had surrounded them suddenly shrank and surged toward them. This undead energy was created by the zombie goddess, so it wasn't something a normal cultivator could deal with. And Lin could only stop and use immortal spells to disperse the black mist along with Dabai and Chungying. After the black mist was dispersed, the zombie goddess was already nowhere to be seen. Damn it, she got away. And Lin was a little angry and self-blaming. If it weren't for his hesitation, he wouldn't have let her go. It's all right, big brother, and we'll catch her again and teach her a lesson, woof. Dabai spoke with an excited expression. What? Teach her a lesson? And Lin blinked. At this moment, everyone else gathered around him and looked at Lin with complex expressions. Many people expressed their gratitude toward Lin with reverence in their eyes, but there were also many people who looked at him with peculiar expressions. Mr. Lin, I didn't think you had such a unique taste. Chung Ying chuckled drily. Senior Lin, I thought your declaration of, even if it's a god, I'll kill him for us to see was very domineering. But now it looks like your declaration of, even if it's a god, I'll *CK him for us to see is even more shocking. Even if you lose, it's a glorious defeat. At this time, a male comrade spoke and gave a thumbs up. He was completely astonished by Lin's kissing of his own volition toward the zombie goddess. After the male comrade finished speaking, many other male cultivators also chimed in. It wasn't that none of them had designs on the zombie goddess, but the zombie goddess was so powerful that they wouldn't dare to do something like that. The only person who dared to do something like that was Lin. So he was worthy of admiration and admiration. Hey, don't get the wrong idea. It's not what you think. And Lin finally figured out what they were talking about and immediately tried to explain himself. Senior Lin, you don't have to explain yourself. You saved our lives, so it's normal for you to have some weird hobbies. We won't laugh at you. Lu Shuai also stepped forward and spoke with a serious expression. Right at this moment, Lin's shoulder was patted heavily. He turned around to find his father looking at him with a warm and steady gaze. Son, I have no doubt about your strength. You have never disappointed me in this regard. I don't want to interfere too much with the matters between men and women. However, I'm actually against this. Let me explain it to you. And Ming Chuan began to ramble on about the stakes involved. And Lin was on the verge of tears upon hearing and Ming Chuan's words. Explain my guess. It's not what you think it is. And Lin had no choice but to cut this conversation short and suggest that everyone evacuate to a safe area first. The zombie goddess wasn't dead yet, so everyone felt like it was best to evacuate first. Thus, they listened to Lin's plan. And Lin rode on Dabai's back and thought about how to explain this. He didn't know how to explain it. He could explain accidentally pouncing on the zombie goddess. After all, Dabai had only pounced on it once. However, it was hard for him to explain his action of wanting to kiss her after pouncing on her. Couldn't help himself? Was he bewitched? Earth's gravity was too strong? Explain my guess. He couldn't just say that he could learn a cultivation method just by kissing and sucking, right? Who would believe him? No, Su Xiaolan might believe him, but she would definitely slap Lin in the face first. Sigh, how troublesome. Could it be that his reputation as a sword immortal, Lin, was going to be tainted by the fact that he loved zombies? Soon, under Chung Ying's lead, everyone arrived at the main station of the Changbai Mountain Expedition Team. This station was where the teams from the 3 nations and the 5 sects gathered. It was a place for information exchange and mutual support. And Lin arrived at the station and was instantly struck by a bone-chilling sensation. He immediately realized that this was a sign that the system had failed the mission. If he failed the mission, he would become a frozen man for 3 days. It looked like the time limit for the mission was up, and the system was going to punish him. He didn't know what a frozen man was, but it definitely wasn't a good thing. Dabai dat, and Lin immediately yelled. And Ming Chuan turned to look at Lin, only to discover that his face had become extremely pale. Little Lin, what's wrong? Big brother, and what's wrong? Don't scare me, woof. Dabai also trembled as he sensed the chill emanating from Enlin's body. I'm fine. Enlin shook his head and quickly explained, I'm cultivating a cultivation method that requires me to become a frozen man for 3 days. During this time, send me to a safe place. No matter what happens, don't panic. He didn't believe that he would die after becoming a frozen man. The system was a scam, but it wasn't to the extent of directly scamming its owner to death. Wasn't the previous owner of the system an old man? This also proved that with a scammer system, one could still live to an old age. And Lin was just that optimistic. The chill became more and more terrifying. He felt as if his blood, bones, and flesh were all being frozen, and his teeth were chattering incessantly. A white frosty aura emanated from Enlin's body, freezing everything within a radius of 100 feet. Everyone turned to look at Enlin in shock, not understanding what was going on. And Ming Chuan was given a fright by the sight of Enlin's pained expression, and he yelled, Little Lin, what the hell is this Iceman? Why would he cultivate in such a terrifying cultivation method? Can you please stop cultivating this cultivation method? Enlin's lips twitched. How would he know what a frozen man was? The cultivation method was just an excuse he came up with to comfort them. He wanted to say something, but he spat out a mouthful of ice instead. Soon, a white layer of frost covered Enlin's skin. Immediately after, crystal-clear ice covered his entire body from the inside out. He didn't even have time to close his eyes before he was completely frozen by the ice. Enlin was completely frozen before everyone's eyes. Chapter 309. Enlin had frozen himself in broad daylight and was covered in a thick layer of ice. Just like that, all of the cultivators were astonished. Mr. Enlin's cultivation technique can freeze himself to this state? Cheng Ying was completely dumbstruck, as if his entire world had been refreshed. His eyes aren't even closed yet. Is he really going to be all right? Lu Shui's eyes widened with concern. And Ming Chuan was also very concerned at the sight of Enlin's wide, open eyes and the frozen expression of pain on his face, but he didn't know what to do. I'll take little Lin back to North Mist Mountain first. And Ming Chuan knew that the zombie goddess was still alive, so even at the main outpost of Changbai Mountain, there would still be danger. The safest place he could think of was North Mist Mountain, so he decided to move Enlin's body there first. All right, Ming Chuan will take Mr. Enlin away first. If you need any help, feel free to let us know. Cheng Ying bade farewell to Ming Chuan with a concerned expression on his face. All right, I'll be thanking General Cheng in advance. And Ming Chuan joined his fists in salute before making his way over to Enlin and hoisting him onto his back. Uncle Lin, put Big Brother in on my back. I'll take you there, Woof. Dabai spoke in the spirit beast language, and Ming Chuan nodded before leaping onto Dabai's back with the ice-encased Enlin on his back, on a tall mountain surrounded by clouds and mist on North Mist Mountain. Within a pavilion, there was a middle-aged man sipping tea leisurely by himself. He then sensed a familiar aura and immediately opened a gap in the spell formation to welcome the familiar figure. Ha ha! Mr. Enlin, you're done already? I can finally have a drink with you. Chuizha stood up with a smile on his face. Then his smile froze on his face. Why was Ming Chuan sitting on the dog? Holy F***CK. And Ming Chuan was carrying Enlin? Enlin had turned into a block of ice, and Ming Chuan placed Enlin lightly onto the ground as he panted slightly. Chuizha quickly walked over, unable to conceal the shock on his face. Ming Chuan, what happened to fellow Taoist Enlin? He's cultivating a technique that will turn him into a frozen person for 3 days. I placed him here to protect his safety. And Ming Chuan looked up at the bright sun as he spoke with anticipation in his eyes. Let's bask in the sun for now. Let's see if the sun can warm my son up a little. Chuizha looked at the block of ice and didn't know what expression to put on. He had lived for so long, and Lin was currently in a very mysterious state. He did not fall into a deep sleep. His vision and hearing were not affected, but his body was constantly being invaded by the endless chill. It was a cold so cold that even his soul felt pain. This kind of cold power made him feel very uncomfortable. He could see his father's anxious expression, as well as Chuizha's worried and curious expression. He could see Dabai standing in front of him, staring into his eyes with wide, round eyes. A sinister smile suddenly appeared on Dabai's face. It transmitted its voice into Enlin's ears. "Big brother, and are you still alive? Can you speak?" Enlin, he was unable to make any movements. Only his consciousness was awake, so he was naturally unable to communicate. Then he saw Dabai pull out his phone and make a call. "Hey, Su Xiaolan, Enlin has turned into a block of ice. Do you want to come and take a look? It's fine. Don't be nervous. You only have 3 days to visit. Don't miss this opportunity." "All right, I'll send you the coordinates." He woof. The call ended, and he made another call. "Hey, Su, on Yuan Sheng, Enlin has turned into a block of ice. Do you want to come take a look? Don't be rash. There's no need to take revenge. He transformed on his own accord. You only have 3 days to visit. Don't miss this opportunity." He. "I'll send you the coordinates." Woof. Then, a conflicted expression appeared on Dabai's face. "What a pity. I don't think I have Lu Qianwan's number." Woof. Within the block of ice, Enlin's heart was extremely depressed. F*CK. Why did he call so many people to visit his master? Dabai has really grown up. When he comes out in 3 days, he's definitely going to eat dog meat. Su Xiaolan and Su Qianyun were the first to arrive. They descended from the sky and landed in front of Enlin. To Enlin's relief, all of them wore expressions of concern on their faces. They weren't as heartless as Dabai. "Enlin, what's the matter? Say something, don't scare me." There was a panicked expression on Su Xiaolan's pretty face. She patted the block of ice lightly with her fair hands in an attempt to wake him up. "Xiaolan, don't be so agitated. It would be bad if you accidentally smash classmate Enlin into pieces." Su Qianyun hurried over to stop Su Xiaolan. "Then I'll burn it with fire." A wisp of golden flame appeared on Su Xiaolan's slender fingers, and she jabbed it at the block of ice in front of her. This flame was imbued with the purest power of yang. Enlin actually felt a surge of warmth from it. It was as if he had suddenly found a sliver of warmth in an ancient block of ice. Enlin was ecstatic. As expected, Su Xiaolan was the best. "Aya, Xiaolan, don't be so agitated. It would be bad if you accidentally burn classmate Enlin." Su Qianyun hurried over to stop Su Xiaolan. Enlin, Su Xiaolan's brows furrowed slightly, but she still stopped burning in the end. This was because she discovered that her flames were unable to even melt the outermost layer of ice. This was clearly no ordinary block of ice. Thus, Enlin's last sliver of warmth disappeared. He was once again immersed in boundless cold, and it was an extremely painful experience. If he could cry, he would have burst into tears long ago. How he wished for Su Xiaolan to continue burning the ice. "Su Qianyun, why did you have to stop Su Xiaolan?" Right at this moment, and Ming Chuan also came over. He was overjoyed to see Su Xiaolan. "You're Su Xiaolan? I'm Enlin's father, and Ming Chuan." And Ming Chuan looked at Su Xiaolan with a benevolent expression on his face. A smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she replied in a gentle and obedient manner. "Hello, Uncle Wen. I've heard about you from Enlin a long time ago. I have some small gifts that I wanted to give to you." And Ming Chuan was a little overwhelmed by the unexpected favor he received from Su Xiaolan. The more he looked at his future daughter-in-law, the more he liked her. After learning that Ming Chuan was Enlin's father, Su Qianyun also timidly pulled out a calming bead and stuffed it into Ming Chuan's hand. And Ming Chuan was completely mesmerized by Su Qianyun's exquisite beauty. Even at his age, he couldn't help but feel his heart clench. Su Qianyun was definitely the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. After learning that Su Qianyun and Enlin were also quite close, he immediately invited the two of them to the pavilion to drink some tea and chat about life. Even though Su Qianyun didn't know how to speak Mandarin, Su Xiaolan could translate for her. And Ming Chuan talked about interesting stories from the mortal world and Enlin's childhood, while Su Xiaolan and Su Qianyun talked about their experiences in the kingdom of the 9 states. The three of them conversed happily. Dabai was also rubbing up against Su Qianyun and Su Xiaolan with excitement on his face. He was extremely happy, and he was extremely adorable. Only a certain pitiful frozen man stood alone in a forgotten corner, silently listening to the conversations and laughter in the pavilion. The sunlight from the sky poured down and warmed the earth. It passed through the sparkling and translucent ice, but could not warm his heart. Chapter 3:10. Just as Enlin was enjoying his time being frozen in ice, a man in a flowing white robe descended from the sky and landed beside Enlin. "Classmate Enlin, are you all right?" The man pressed his palm against the block of ice with furrowed brows. Enlin felt as if he was bathing in the spring breeze at the sight of this extraordinarily handsome face and the gentle yet caring voice. The man was none other than class president Xinyuan Cheng. He was still as gentle as ever. Xinyuan Cheng thought about it for a moment before drawing his longsword. The image of a yin and yang fish appeared beneath his feet. The wind and clouds instantly surged as he activated his Tao of myriad spirit Tai Chi to the extreme. "Classmate Enlin, I'm going to cut open the block of ice and save you." Xinyuan Cheng held his sword with one hand and brought the blade of the sword into contact with the block of ice, upon which a gentle force began to erode the block of ice. "Don't be rash, Big Brother Cheng. Big Brother and his cultivating woof." Dabai immediately rushed out of the pavilion to stop him. "I know he's cultivating, but can't you see how much pain he's in? If possible, I want to try and save him so that he doesn't have to suffer so much." Xinyuan Cheng spoke with a serious expression. "Wah, Big Brother Cheng really is a good person." Enlin was extremely touched upon hearing this. "Aya, Class President Xinyuan Cheng, don't be rash. It would be bad if you accidentally hurt Enlin." Su Qinyun immediately stepped forward to stop Xinyuan Cheng's actions. Xinyuan Cheng agreed with Su Xiaolan's reasoning. Even though he was using a gentle force to avoid hurting Enlin, who knew if this method would negatively affect Enlin's cultivation method. What if the external force caused Enlin to suffer from qi deviation? He had indeed been rash this time. Also, he had used all his strength just then, but the block of ice was completely unscathed. Sigh. Enlin is really worrying. Xinyuan Cheng shook his head regretfully and sheathed his sword. Su Xiaolan also walked over and looked at Enlin with some anger. She said with dissatisfaction, "He always likes to court death like this. He doesn't even understand the feelings of us friends. What else can we do now? We can only wait." When Enlin heard Su Xiaolan's complaints, he immediately felt stifled. He really wanted to tell Fairy Xiaolan that he had only become like this in order to preserve his manhood. How was this courting death? This was a great perseverance. This was the reserve of love. Xinyuan Cheng, Su Qianyun, and Su Xiaolan look at each other speechlessly. Finally, Uncle invites them to the pavilion for tea. Enlin continued to live his life as a lonely, frozen man. Unknowingly, the sun gradually set. After a brief discussion, the three of them decided to send Enlin to a hall in the VIP courtyard. They were all on very good terms with Enlin, and they couldn't bear to leave Enlin like this, so they settled down on North Mist Mountain. At night, the North Mist Mountain's grand misty cloud formation separated the outside world from the space here. Everything was extremely tranquil with the occasional speck of starlight shining through the clouds and mist onto the courtyard. The block of ice Enlin was unable to sleep. After all, his eyes were wide open, and his consciousness was extremely clear. Furthermore, the bone-chilling cold was constantly assailing him, so there was no way he could sleep. The night was very long, and the light in the hall did not provide any warmth. It only illuminated this area. The sound of footsteps suddenly sounded. A green figure appeared before Enlin. Her brows were slightly furrowed as she looked at Enlin's face with a complex expression in her clear eyes. "I couldn't sleep, so I came to see you." It was Enlin's old friend, Su Xiaolan. She brought over a small stool and sat down beside Enlin. She rested her chin on one hand, and there was a faint trace of melancholy on her beautiful face. Enlin was very touched to see Su Xiaolan, but unfortunately, he couldn't move. "Hey, Enlin, can you hear me right now? Are you awake or in a deep sleep right now?" She looked at the man beside her, and her gentle and pleasant voice sounded again. Enlin thought to himself, "Of course I can hear you. but I can't say it myself. Sigh, this kind of state is really giving me a headache. The block of ice in Lin was constantly emitting cold air, causing the temperature in the hall to be much lower than the temperature in the room far away. Su Xiaolan, who was the closest to him, couldn't help but shiver from the cold. And Lin, are you cold? It must be very uncomfortable to be in this state, right? Su Xiaolan pulled out a golden bead from her storage ring as she spoke. There were 9 small golden dragons swimming about within the bead, and the power of flames engulfed the entire hall as soon as the bead was activated, making the entire hall feel as if it were in the height of summer. This is the divine flame bead, and I inject flame power into it every day. The energy it's emitting right now is the purest flame power. Do you feel any better? Su Xiaolan placed the golden bead against Lin's block of ice, and her other hand trembled as she stroked the block of ice that was exuding an extremely cold aura. She was very afraid of the cold. Perhaps it was because her flame power was no match for this block of ice, but her entire hand stiffened when she touched it. She felt like Lin must be in a lot of pain as well, and she wanted to share some of the burden with Lin. For some reason, Lin really did feel bursts of warmth, as if he were being embraced by a warm body. Go, don't stay here anymore. Lin didn't bask in this warmth. He really wanted to yell and tell Su Xiaolan to leave. He saw Su Xiaolan's trembling fingers as she stroked the block of ice, and he also saw the determination in Su Xiaolan's eyes, as well as her hair that was covered in specks of white frost. Was this the backlash from the block of ice? Lin was filled with remorse. He didn't think that Su Xiaolan would do something like this for him. He should have told her in advance not to let anyone else know about this. As expected, he was definitely going to eat dog meat after coming out of this place. A faint smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face, and she spoke in a gentle voice. As your old friend, I've never had the chance to do anything for you. You always like to court death, but I don't have the right to stop you. You always have a reason to court death, right? Perhaps you'll be able to master an ice-type cultivation method after being frozen. Lin, you've guessed wrong this time. This is only a punishment. But even if I can't stop you, I still want to help you when you're in pain. Su Xiaolan blinked as her intricate nose wrinkled slightly, as if she were trying to think of an excuse. This is the code of conduct I have as an old friend. Lin's heart was filled with both warmth and heartache upon hearing this. Celestial Maiden Xiaolan, it's late at night. Hurry up and go. What's there to talk about with someone who's frozen? In the end, she still left. She left at daybreak. She moved Lin to a pavilion on the summit of the mountain. You can continue to bask in the sun. I'm going to rest. Su Xiaolan's features were a little pale, but they were extremely beautiful under the light of the rising sun. Lin sighed with emotion. He was the man who had spent a night with Celestial Maiden Xiaolan. It was just that both of them were in a rather strange state. One of them was busy activating his divine flame bead, while the other was too frozen to speak. This was a strange yet warm night. Not long after that, Dubai ran over. Holy F Astra CK. Big brother, and I didn't see you in the living room just then, woof. An expression of shock appeared on Dubai's face as he stared at the frozen Lin. Who moved you here? Lin. Silence was the only response he received. Dubai patted his own head as if he were remorseful for being so stupid. Big brother, are you cold? Lin, Dubai continued. I've been thinking about this for an entire night. If you can still see, I have a way to make your blood boil and heat up. Lin became curious when he heard Dubai's solemn vow. He was then greeted by the sight of Dubai arriving with a book in his hands. He opened it and placed it in front of Lin. There were all kinds of naked beauties posing in all kinds of seductive poses. A day's work begins in the morning. Blood vessels spurt, a pillar propping up the heavens. Is it hot? Is Big Brother hot? Dubai yelled excitedly. Lin, as expected, the first thing to do after thawing was to eat dog meat. Chapter 311. Dubai seemed to be very excited in the morning as he flipped through a porn book for Lin to read. Big brother, this is my favorite. But this one's face is very seductive. I like it too, woof. Lin's resentment continued to mount. He didn't want to look at it, but the book was right in front of him, and he didn't even have the right to close his eyes or turn his head away. Ah! At this moment, a familiar scream sounded. Su Qianyun covered her blushing face and turned to run away. And Lin, Dabai finally restrained himself upon seeing this and silently put away the porn book. Big brotherin, I won't give up regardless of whether you can see these scenes or not. I didn't do all of this for you to remember my kindness. Yi Zichen sighed. I'm going to continue tomorrow, woof. And Lin, don't worry. He definitely wouldn't forget Dabai's suffocating actions. In the morning, Xin Yuan Sheng also woke up from his meditation. He wielded an antiquated longsword and began to practice sword techniques in front of Enlin. Each and every sword technique was imbued with the essence of heaven and earth and was extremely intricate. His movements were elegant and charming, and there was only one word to describe it: handsome. Sure enough, such a delightful sword dance was the normal style. He should be watching this kind of stuff in the morning. And Lin looked at Big Brother Chung, then looked at Dabai, and he wanted to eat dog meat again. Time slowly passed by. At noon, Su Xiaolan appeared in front of Enlin again. Her complexion had recovered significantly, and she winked at Enlin in a mischievous manner before walking over to the gazebo to chat, play chess, and drink tea. Classmate Xiaolan, why did you sleep for so long? Su Qianyun latched onto Su Xiaolan's arm and asked curiously. It's such a leisurely day, so I should sleep in. Su Xiaolan yawned and replied with a smile. Su Qianyun raised her head and complained, Xiaolan, I'm telling you, Dabai is such a hooligan. You should stay away from him. Woof. How can Su Qianyun slander me like this? Dabai immediately refused to accept this and said righteously, everything I did this morning was what Brotherin told me to do before he was frozen. Lin, should Dabai be steamed or braised? Su Qianyun's blue eyes widened as she asked in surprise, really? Of course. Do you think I'm a kind of dog? Dabai replied seriously. What did Dabai do this morning? Su Xiaolan asked curiously. Well, a blush appeared on Su Qianyun's delicate face, and she was a little embarrassed to speak. It's actually something that men do all the time. It's very normal. You don't need to know. Dabai glossed over this in a nonchalant manner. Su Qianyun stammered and didn't reply. Su Xiaolan didn't pursue the matter any further, and everyone continued to chat about other topics. And Lin heaved a sigh of relief. There were still 2 days until Dabai's death. Time continued to pass by. Su Xiaolan would still sneak over at night to warm Enlin up with the divine flame bead and accompany Enlin through the long and cold night. In the morning, Dabai would still read porn to Big Brother and use the Bai family hot blood cultivation method to cure Enlin of the freezing effect. Xin Yuan Sheng would perform sword dances in front of Enlin every day, hoping to relieve his boredom or simply show off some of his sword techniques. As for Su Qianyun, she clumsily surrounded Enlin, not knowing what to do or say. She was very worried that she would hurt Enlin if she didn't do a good job. So she would often stare at Enlin with an adorable expression, wanting to see if Enlin really wouldn't be able to move at all. And Ming Chuan often came to chat with Enlin and tried to persuade Enlin to stop cultivating such a freakish cultivation method, telling him that all roads lead to Rome. The experiences of the past few days were very special to Enlin. Enlin was still feeling very cold, but the bone-chilling cold was warmed by his family and friends. It was exactly because of them that Enlin felt like being frozen wasn't that scary. At the very least, he wouldn't be lonely or despairing. The last day, the sun shone down on the translucent ice, which was now glistening with droplets of water. Classmate Enlin's ice is starting to melt. Su Qianyun exclaimed with elation. Phew, it really did melt after 3 days. I don't have to worry anymore. Xin Yuan Sheng heaved a sigh of relief. Su Xiaolan looked at the ice melting around Enlin with a hint of nervousness and anticipation in her eyes. She wanted nothing more than to add more fuel to the fire so that it would melt faster. Dabai hid behind in Ming Chuan and looked at Enlin with a guilty conscience. Big Brother and didn't hear what I said in the pavilion, right? Big Brother and will understand my good intentions, right? Crack. Cracks began to appear on the translucent ice before shattering like glass and falling to the ground. Without the support of the ice, and Lin's body slowly fell toward the ground. Everyone was given a fright upon seeing this, and they immediately rushed over to help Lin up. Su Xiaolan pressed her soft hand against Lin's chest, and the pure and warm power of flames flowed into his body from her palm, warming his body and unblocking his frozen meridians. "Thank you, I'm fine now." And Lin looked at Su Xiaolan with a grateful expression as he stood up on his own. His body was recovering very quickly, and it looked like there weren't any side effects from being frozen, which made him heave a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness, little Lin, you're finally awake." And Ming Chuan wrapped his arms around Lin's body excitedly. "Listen to Daddy. Don't cultivate this kind of cultivation technique anymore. It's too scary. All right, I've listened to you for 3 days already, so I won't cultivate it anymore." And Lin replied with a smile. And Ming Chuan was astonished. "You were frozen, but you could still hear us." And Lin nodded with a smile. "Of course, I can see and hear you." He looked around at everyone around him. "It's so good to have all of you here." Su Xiaolan faltered slightly upon hearing this, and a bright blush appeared on her face as she clenched her fists tightly. She was starting to panic. Could it be that Lin knew everything she had said and done in the past 3 days? Dabai's body trembled upon hearing this, and he stuck out his tongue as he winked at Lin with all his might. "All right, classmate Lin, you've only just thawed, so you should go get some rest." Xian Yuan Cheng was still very worried about Lin, and he immediately suggested. Lin didn't look at Dabai. Instead, he shook his head with a smile. "No need. I'm in a pretty good state of mind right now. Tonight, I'll treat everyone to dog meat." And Ming Chuan faltered upon hearing this. "Dog meat? I don't think there are many places that sell dog meat in the capital city." And Lin finally locked his gaze onto Dabai, and a peculiar smile appeared on his face. "No need. Dabai weighs a few 100 kilograms. It's more than enough for us to eat." Everyone, Dabai's body shuddered, and he immediately turned to run. "You want to run?" And Lin chuckled coldly as wings of wind appeared on his back, and he charged toward Dabai like a gust of wind. Dabai's snowy white tail was grabbed by a large hand, and his entire body was flung backward by an immense force. "Spare me, big brotherin. I'm doing this for your own good. Woof woof." Dabai's face turned deathly pale as he howled in anguish. You should have thought of what would happen to me when you decided to court death." And Lin chuckled coldly as his fist descended upon Dabai's body without any hesitation. Howling wind and torrential rain. Countless lightning boomed. Heaven and earth crumbled. Thump, thump, thump. Bang, bang, bang. Clatter, 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 clatter. Puff, puff, puff. Thump, thump, thump. Bang, bang, bang. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Puff, puff, puff. Dabai's anguish howls filled with boundless remorse reverberated through the heavens. Chapter 312. Dabai was beaten into a dead dog by Lin. And Lin finally gave up on the urge to turn it into dog meat after it begged for its life. Everyone heaved a collective sigh of relief upon seeing Lin's spirited state with gratified expressions on their faces. It looked like Lin was back to full health after beating Dabai to such a sorry state. Thus, everyone switched from dog meat to beef for dinner. At night, they held an outdoor barbecue at the summit of the mountain, and everyone enjoyed themselves to the fullest. The next morning, everyone gathered at the heavenly lake on Changbai Mountain. Dabai didn't have a jade talisman, so Lin left it to guard the North Mist Mountain. Before setting off, Lin called Lu Qianhuan, Tang Shiman, Hu Guan, Yao Mingxi, Tian Lingling, and White Spirit Snake to remind them to gather at the heavenly lake. After that, he leaped onto his brick and flew toward the Changbai mountain range with Su Xiaolan and the others. Within the Changbai mountain range, 3 humans wearing red robes that covered their faces were shuttling through the forest. All of a sudden, one of the humans in red robes stopped in his tracks. "Master Dooku, what's wrong?" a woman in a red robe asked. "There's a wolf." The man by the name of Dooku opened his hand, and a crimson spear appeared in his hand. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was drawn toward the crimson spear, and the forest was instantly filled with a murderous aura. At the same time, a dangerous aura began to surge toward the 3 people in the center from all directions. A series of black shadows appeared in the surroundings, each of which possessed an extremely powerful aura. Filthy Blood Tribe, get the F*CK out of this mountain range, an extremely authoritative voice sounded. A huge wolf of 30 feet in size appeared in the center of the pack of wolves, and its golden eyes stared intently at the three people in the center like an ancient ferocious beast. Dark Wolf Tribe, I recall that your territory is in the Siberian ice plains. What right do you have to tell us to leave? Dukas spoke with a cold expression. Hee, the Changbai mountain range has always been a part of our Dark Wolf Tribe. Don't talk nonsense to me. I'll give you 10 seconds to leave or die. The leader of the huge wolves chuckled coldly. Duke! He straightened his red robe. Looks like there's nothing to talk about. Boom! The torrential blood wave, which carried a corrosive and depraved aura, suddenly gushed out in all directions. Wherever it passed, the plants withered and the earth became barren. Ha! I'll have a taste of your great tonic today. The giant wolf leader sneered, and the pitch-black gale field enveloped its entire body. Its black claws slashed through the blood wave and collided with Duke's blood spear. Rumble. The huge collision set off a hurricane, causing the trees within a radius of 300 meters to bend towards the ground. This earth-shattering battle finally erupted in this desolate mountain forest. At the same time, the ninjas and Onmyoji of Japan, the genetic warriors of America, and the Hidden Witch tribe had also snuck into Changbai mountain range to get their hands on the rare treasures. The change in the world's vital energy was too widespread. Not only were the cultivators in the country in an uproar, but even foreign cultivators came to investigate. The cultivators of the major celestial sects had also been mobilized in the past few days. The Changbai mountain range had truly become a battleground for the major powers. The battle had already begun before the treasures had even appeared. To the cultivators in the country, any foreign power that appeared here harbored ill intentions and wanted to steal their treasures. Hence, they would usually fight as soon as they saw them. This was also the case when it came to foreign powers. However, they would usually restrain themselves and lay low. There were only a few who were as hot-tempered as the Dark Wolf tribe. At the mouth of a volcano surrounded by 16 mountain peaks, there was a huge lake embedded in the mountain range. This was the renowned Heavenly Lake of Changbai Mountain. Due to the abnormal change in the world's vital energy, the Heavenly Lake of Changbai Mountain had been officially sealed off to prevent any visitors from entering. For streaks of light suddenly descended from the sky before landing on the edge of the Heavenly Lake. They were none other than Enlin, Su Xiaolan, Su Qingyun, and Xianyuan Cheng, who had just arrived from North Mist Mountain. Wow, the scenery here is quite beautiful. Su Qingyun blinked her beautiful eyes in amazement. The scenery is indeed quite nice. Let's wait for them here. Enlin clapped his hands and led the way as they sat down. Xianyuan Cheng looked around cautiously. There are still many cultivators hiding nearby. It's fine. The abnormality of the Changbai mountain range will definitely attract other cultivators. It's fine as long as they don't disturb us. Enlin wore a nonchalant expression. It's easy to cause trouble with too many people. I should set up a defensive spell formation around here. Xianyuan Cheng was a cautious person and immediately suggested. Me too. Su Xiaolan was quite talented in spell formations. Since she had nothing to do, she also joined Xianyuan Cheng in setting up a spell formation. Thus, Enlin and Su Qingyun were left to sit leisurely to the side. Su Qingyun was very quiet. Seeing that there was nothing else to do, she sat down to meditate and do some breathing exercises. Enlin couldn't be bothered to refine his core. There was no point in doing so anyway. Thus, he decided to go into the lake and catch a few fish to eat. The Heavenly Lake was a place where vital energy gathered, so the fish in it would definitely be very fresh and delicious. As a qualified foodie, he was naturally not going to let go of this opportunity. Splash! Enlin activated his water isolation immortal technique and leaped into the lake. Enlin entered the water and flicked his fingers. Each of his flicks was able to strike a fish at the bottom of the lake. He then pulled them to the side and put them away in his storage ring. He dove deeper and deeper. After diving for over 100 meters, the light was already very dim. At this moment, he was basically relying on his divine sense to attack. Huh, this aura is very well concealed. What kind of fish is it? And Lin's eyes lit up as he flicked his finger toward a certain spot in the darkness. A muffled groan sounded from the bottom of the lake. He was alarmed and began to pull the fish that had been struck by the line of water to his side. All of this happened extremely quickly. The line of water was suddenly severed by some kind of power. Baka, a voice suddenly sounded from within the darkness. And Lin. He flicked his fingers in quick succession, and a series of lines of water transformed into an inescapable net that shot toward the source of the voice. Another muffled groan sounded. And Lin's fingers did not stop as he continued to pull the black shadow toward him. Bakayalu. An enraged roar sounded from within the darkness. F*CK, as expected of a F*King idiot. Do you want to die? And Lin's eyes narrowed. Within the darkness, a saber strike imbued with absolute killing intent sliced through the water before slashing toward Lin's chest. And Lin's expression remained calm and collected as he easily evaded the saber strike. A powerful bolt of lightning erupted from his fingertips. Lightning instantly crackled in the darkness of the lake as a blue light imbued with terrifying power spread through the surroundings. At the edge of the heavenly lake, Su Xiaolan and Xianyuan Cheng, who were setting up a spell formation, suddenly saw a series of fish with their white bellies on the surface of the lake. Boom. A figure broke through the surface of the water. It was none other than Enlin, who had gone into the lake to catch fish. "Ha, I caught a big fish." He laughed heartily as he tossed the man who was foaming at the mouth onto the ground. "Wow, classmate Enlin, what kind of fish is that?" "It looks like a human." Su Qianyun stared blankly at the man who resembled a dead fish. "Enlin, classmate Su, big fish is a metaphor. He's a human, a stupid Japanese ninja." "There are ninjas here? I've heard that their spell techniques are quite interesting." Su Xiaolan also made her way over to them with a curious expression. And Lin nodded. "He must be hiding at the bottom of the lake for some reason. I'm planning to interrogate him for information after he wakes up." Right at this moment, the man with the charred face opened his eyes. "Who are you? We have no vendetta against each other. Why did you capture me?" Japanese, Su Xiaolan and Su Qianyun blinked as they looked at Enlin, as if asking what he was talking about. Enlin's lips twitched. "Do you speak Mandarin? Let go of me. Otherwise, when our pinnacle ninja, Hataki Shun Shunshi, arrives, you're dead." Japanese, the man roared. Su Xiaolan couldn't help but ask, "Classmate Enlin, what did he just say?" Enlin's chest tightened. Who am I supposed to ask? However, he couldn't just say that he didn't understand. He had clearly said that he was going to interrogate him for information. If he said that he didn't understand now, it would be very embarrassing. And Lin scratched his nose. He's right. He'd rather die than say what they're planning. "Bakayaru, let him go," the ninja said again. And Lin understood this time and translated. "He's calling us be asterisk stards and saying that he can do whatever he wants with us." Su Xiaolan and Su Qianyun nodded as they looked at the ninja with solemn expressions. The ninja's expression faltered upon seeing that Enlin had already drawn his evil-slaying sword and was slashing toward his neck. Blood splattered through the air as a bloody gash appeared on his neck. Just like that, he died. In the end, the ninja's body was tossed back into the heavenly lake by Enlin. The beautiful name was Return to Where You Came From. Chapter 313. Just as the ninja was tossed back into the lake by Enlin to feed the fish, a commotion suddenly erupted in the forest in the distance. 3 inky black figures were extremely excited. They had a shadow spell technique, so normal cultivators wouldn't be able to detect them even if they were to look in this direction. Aizura-kun has been killed. Master Hataki Shun Shunshi. We have to avenge him. One of the black figures yelled with rage. Don't panic. A man with short white hair shook his head as he looked toward Enlin and the others with a grave expression. Aizura-kun is a spirit nurturing initial stage Jonin. That person was able to discover him and kill him at the bottom of the lake, so he must be quite powerful. Furthermore, he has companions of unknown strength, so he shouldn't act rashly. Are we just going to do nothing now? Another black figure asked. We have to avenge him, but now is not the time. Hataki Shunshunshi spoke in an indifferent voice. The Heavenly Lake is the place where vital energy is most concentrated in the Changbai Mountains. If there are any rare treasures or ruins, then they'll most likely appear here. Once the rare treasures or ruins appear, the situation will become chaotic and chaotic. We're proficient in assassinations, so it'll be a piece of cake for us to kill those cultivators. The other two black figures nodded in agreement. Their team leader's cautiousness and strength were the key to their team's success in every mission they carried out. This time, they would let the man who killed Aizura live for a while longer. More powerful beings are coming. Hataki Shunshunshi looked up into the sky. Two cultivators flew through the air on their swords before landing beside Lin. This scene caused the expressions of Hataki Shunshunshi and the other two superior ninjas to turn serious. The fact that they were able to fly over on their swords meant that these two were powerful beings of the spirit-nurturing stage or above. As such, Lin's team became even more powerful. Don't worry, it's just two more spirit-nurturing stage cultivators. As long as they're not as powerful as me, they won't be able to do anything, Hataki Shunshunshi reassured. Not long after that, another man flew over on his flying sword. He did not conceal his aura, and a powerful aura spread out in all directions. This aura was even more powerful than Hataki Shunshunchi's. He also landed beside Lin. The corners of Hataki Shunshunchi's mouth twitched slightly, but he still tried to cheer Hoshi up. We ninjas are skilled in assassination, and it's normal for us to defeat the strong with the weak. So even if the enemy is stronger than us, we can still defeat them by surprise. The other two Jonins nodded in agreement. Ever since their debut, they had never been afraid of anyone. Just then, another pink trail cut through the clouds. A beautiful woman descended from the sky and landed beside Lin. Her aura was as vast as the sea, as if she was in the god realm. Hataki Shunshunshi drew a sharp intake of breath and fell silent. Captain, a Jonin spoke up in fear. Do you still remember what our mission is here? Hataki Shunshunshi asked. It's to fight for the rare treasure and conquer the ruins. Another Jonin chimed in. That's right. Then what is the mission of our ninjas? Hataki Shunshunshi continued to ask. The mission is number 1, and we have to put our lives on the line to complete the mission. The Jonin replied in a passionate voice. Very good. It looks like you all understand. Our main goal is to complete the mission, not to take revenge. We can put aside Iwata's matter for now. Our mission is number 1. Hataki Shunshunshi spoke in a righteous voice. Captain is wise. The two Jonins spoke in unison. Just as the three ninjas were correcting their thoughts and goals, Lin had also finished setting up the spell formation. Phew, it's a success. Even a soul formation stage cultivator would be severely injured if they were to charge in recklessly with the Tai Chi Spirit Absorption spell formation and Phoenix Flame Golden Lightning spell formation. Su Xiaolan clapped her hands with a smug expression on her pretty face. Xianyuan Chung stretched lazily. Since it's done, I'm going to meditate and rest for a while. Thank you for your hard work. I'll call you when I'm done grilling the fish. The fish from the Heavenly Lake are very delicious. And Lin smiled as he waved the grill in front of him. The delicious aroma of grilled fish wafted through the air. Yao Mingxi and Hu Guan smacked their lips as they stared at the grilled fish on the grill. Their eyes were almost glowing with greed. The deliciousness of the grilled fish was secondary. The most important thing was that this was the fish that their idol had personally grilled. To be able to taste the fish that their idol had grilled personally, they would eat it all even if it tasted like **T. Lu Qianwan also put down her phone and sat down beside Lin as she looked at the large fish on the grill with great interest. She was wearing a pink and blue sailor outfit today, and her short pink hair was tied up into a pair of cute ponytails with a plain hairband. Coupled with her flawless features, she looked extremely youthful and alluring. Unfortunately, no matter how beautiful Lu Qianwan was as an outdoor barbecue pioneer, Lin's eyes remained glued to the grill due to his professional ethics. From time to time, He would flip, cut, add seasoning, and flip again. His movements were as smooth as flowing water. What's this seasoning? Wow, is it edible? It smells so good. I have a bottle of 100-year-old fruit spirit oil here. Can I put some on it? Lu Qianhuan felt that grilling fish was very interesting, so she chattered and asked questions. Soon, the first fish was grilled. Lu Qianhuan, Hu Guan, and Yao Mingxi all licked their lips. However, Enlin eagerly delivered the first fish to Su Xiaolan, who was meditating nearby. Su Xiaolan received the fish from Enlin with a smile. "Thank you. You're welcome. If you like it, I'll grill another one for you." Enlin replied with a matter-of-fact expression. Then, he happily returned to grill the remaining fish. Lu Qianhuan gritted her teeth and glared at Enlin with her purple eyes. "Oi, your bias is out of the solar system. I've been cheering you on from the sidelines for half a day, yet you gave the first fish you grilled to Su Xiaolan, who was meditating off to the side. Cheering me on?" Enlin rolled his eyes. "I think you've been harassing me for half a day." Lu Qianhuan tugged on the corner of Enlin's shirt angrily. I don't care. The second fish has to be mine." "All right." Enlin nodded solemnly. "As long as Su Xiaolan doesn't want to eat the second fish, then the second fish is yours." Lu Qianhuan, not long after, Tian Lingling and White Spirit Snake also successfully met up with Enlin's group. Tian Lingling was very lively, and she quickly mingled with the others. White Spirit Snake was surprisingly shy, and she didn't take the initiative to speak after introducing herself to everyone else. The only difference was that she was extremely proactive toward Enlin. She constantly referred to Enlin as Senior Poison Lord, and would occasionally muster up the courage to say a few words. It was only a matter of time before she joined Hu Guan and Yao Mingxi's team of diehard fans. What was worth mentioning was that White Spirit Snake was very beautiful. Her skin was as fair as jade, her face was an oval, and her body was as delicate as a willow twig. Her long, flowing hair was as beautiful as an ink painting. Perhaps it was due to her beauty, but Enlin wasn't too repulsed by this diehard fan. Thinking about it, having a beautiful woman occasionally look at you with affection was much better than having two grown men look at you with affection. The former was a little proud, while the latter was a little horrified. Thus, Enlin's team had officially assembled, and all that was left was to wait for the tomb to open the next day. Chapter 314. Nighttime, Changbai Mountain, Heavenly Lake. A five-colored streak of light suddenly appeared in the sky above. The surface of the lake reflected the moon and stars in the night sky, and the surface of the lake shimmered with a turbulent undercurrent. The five-colored streak of light only lasted for about 10 minutes, but it had attracted almost all of the cultivators in the Changbai mountain range. Enlin and the others didn't do anything too drastic. They just stood within the defensive spell formation and waited for the tomb to open. Many powerful beings gathered near the heavenly lake. Black shadows floated about in the forest, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. It could be said that danger was lurking on every side. If something substantial were to appear, a chaotic battle would ensue. Tian Lingling and Lu Qianhuan were already engaged in battle. Tian Lingling was playing a new game called League of Valor, and she was crushed by Lu Qianhuan even with her brick-like strength. Why did she still want to play? No *T. There was money to be made from playing with her. She could earn 100 spirit stones for every hour. Only an idiot would turn her down. However, what she didn't know was that back at Shoshin United University, Enlin and Lu Qianhuan's training fee was 1,000 spirit stones for every hour, but that didn't matter. Tian Lingling didn't know about this, so she was very happy playing. Lu Qianhuan was also very happy playing. Everyone was very happy, and everyone was very happy. On a certain mountain next to the heavenly lake, there was a pair of crimson eyes exuding a dangerous aura. The owner of this pair of eyes was an extraordinarily handsome man. His name was Du Ku, and he was the supreme blood god, one of the most powerful beings in the blood tribe of the West. However, he was in a very disheveled state. His red robe and clothes hung from his body like a sling, and he looked like a beggar on the streets. Howl! At this moment, a proud wolf howl erupted from the top of a mountain in the distance, and it reverberated throughout the heavenly lake and the dozen or so nearby mountains with boundless might. Master Dooku, the Dark Wolf tribe is provoking us. A man in a red robe gritted his teeth as he spoke. Duke looked at a mountain peak in the distance. His red eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty red light, but it soon dimmed. This time, the leader of the Dark Wolf clan was very strong. He was not a match for him at all. In the battle at the Changbai mountain range, they were quickly defeated and chased for more than 15 kilometers. Let's focus on the treasure now. We'll settle the score with the Dark Wolf tribe later, Duke said coldly. At the same time, Lin and the others also heard the wolf howl. The wolf howl carried an extremely cold and ruthless aura, as if it was warning and demonstrating to the cultivators near the heaven pool. Tian Lingling's expression shifted in fright, and her petite body involuntarily shuffled toward Lin. Wow, whose wolf is this? It's howling so loudly. Lu Qinhuan exclaimed in surprise. Loud? Even my dog barks louder than it. And Lin's face was full of disdain. What are you shouting about in the middle of the night? You're disturbing my peace. Su Xiaolan yawned and continued to meditate. It's probably dog sh*t. It really is quite uncivilized. Tang Shimin also gave a rare serious comment. Tian Lingling, why are you guys so calm? Such a powerful aura. That wolf should have reached the soul formation stage. A warm smile appeared on Xianyuan Cheng's face upon hearing this. Little sister Tian, did that wolf scare you? Do you want me to go kill it? Forget about it, big brother Cheng. Little Lolis is quite timid. Even a snake can scare her, so there's no way we can kill all of them. And Lin waved his hand. Let's not get into any trouble. Tian Lingling was enraged, and a blush appeared on her delicate little face. She didn't know how to refute Lin's words. Nonsense. Have you seen me being scared by white spirit snake? Lin, Xianyuan Cheng, what the F***CK? Aside from the fact that white spirit snake's Dao name was related to snakes, what other characteristics did she have? If she was scared by a Dao name, then she really didn't want to live anymore. After the wolf's howl, there were no other sounds from the heavenly lake. Everyone was silently waiting for that moment to arrive. The sun rose up from the horizon. Wisps of golden sunlight shone through the mountains and onto the surface of the heavenly lake, gilding the ripples on the surface of the lake with a golden hue. A light breeze was imbued with rich vital energy, making everyone feel extremely refreshed. On this day, Lin and the others' expressions also became solemn. After all, the celestial court had predicted that the Shouyang tomb would be opened at this time. In the sky above, the wind and clouds began to surge. Tiny bubbles suddenly appeared on the surface of the calm lake. At the same time, the vital energy of heaven and earth began to converge toward the center of the heavenly lake. At this moment, everyone was on their toes. This was a sign that the power of heaven and earth was about to open up another dimension. Ruins, this is the opening of an alternate dimension. A cultivator in the forest began to yell with excitement upon seeing this phenomenon. Not only him, but almost everyone else also began to stir. Many figures began to emerge from the forest. Some even appeared at the edge of the heavenly lake, fearful that they would be slower than the others. How many years had it been since an alternate dimension had appeared on Earth? Without a doubt, this was a huge treasure trove. Boom! The mountains began to tremble, and the lake water began to boil, creating waves. The vital energy converged to form a mighty force that surged toward the sky. Kacha, as if something had shattered, a white door of light about 30 feet in size suddenly appeared in the center of the lake. Instantly, heavenly music rang out, and a 5-color divine light descended from the sky. It was the spatial door of the ruins. At this moment, almost all the powerful beings in the area began to move. Blood God, Dark Wolf God, Peak Ninjas, Chinese cultivators, reclusive witches, genetic warriors, one powerful aura after another erupted as they transformed into streaks of light that shot toward the door of light. Only Lin's team remained where they were, as if they wanted to confirm something. The fastest ones were a streak of blood and a streak of black light. Both of them reached the door of light almost at the same time. Get lost, filthy blood tribe. The dark wolf god's claws turned into 5 pitch-black gusts of wind that carried the power of death and destruction as they attacked the side, forcing blood god Duke to retreat. Haha, I'll be going first. A victorious expression appeared on the dark wolf god's face as he charged into the door of light. Boom! The deafening sound caused waves to appear on the surface of the lake. The dark wolf god tumbled into the lake with a dizzy expression. F*CK. What's going on? He felt as if his head had crashed into an indestructible barrier. He had used too much force, and the entire world was spinning. Ha! Idiot! Duke sneered as he turned into a streak of blood and charged toward the door of light with the blood spear in his hand. Boom! He stabbed the blood spear toward the door of light. Unexpectedly, the powerful rebound force struck him, causing him to retreat over 100 meters as blood seeped out of his mouth. What's going on? Can't we enter the spatial door? The cultivators behind them were all astonished upon seeing the state of the dark wolf god and the blood god. Perhaps there's only a cultivation-based restriction. Let me go first. A fat cultivator charged toward the door of light on his sword, and the powerful force of his sword sliced the lake in half. He was the talisman prodigy of the Shangqing immortal sect, Chun Jingtian. He was a powerful cultivator of the spirit-nurturing final stage. Boom! Another resounding boom erupted. The fat cultivator's body was plastered to the door, and his long sword fell into the lake, creating an extremely pitiful sight. Lin smiled lightly upon seeing this. As expected, no one else can enter the spatial passageway. Now it's our turn. Chapter 3:15. Let me try as well. A Dao body stage cultivator stepped over the water and charged toward the gate of light, only to be knocked out by the force of the collision. Many cultivators tried to break through the gate, but all of them failed. Some used their bodies, some used weapons, some used immortal spells, and some used spell formations as they failed again and again. The initial fervor began to die down, and everyone began to think of a way out of this predicament. Lin and the others took this opportunity to charge toward the gate of light. Tian Lingling and White Spirit Snake stood on his black brick, while the other 7 cultivators flew toward the center of the lake atop their swords. There were a total of 8 spirit-nurturing stage cultivators. No one was going to stand in the way of such a terrifying team. Even the blood god and the wolf god remained silent. The 3 ninjas hiding in the dark, waiting for the opportunity to move, were silent at the moment, secretly swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Lu Qinhuan, take Tian Lingling and White Spirit Snake inside first, and Lin instructed. The situation within the Shouyang tomb was unknown, so they needed a powerful cultivator to lead the way. Meanwhile, the weaker cultivators had to enter as soon as possible to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. Lu Qinhuan nodded and brought out her jade talisman before activating her vital energy against the gate of light. The spatial gate instantly glowed with a brilliant white light, and Lu Qinhuan's body transformed into specks of golden light before being sucked into the gate of light. Tian Qi instantly fell into a strange silence. Everyone stared at the scene in front of them with their eyes wide open. Even their breathing became rapid. At this moment, White Spirit Snake had already activated her Jade Talisman. It took about 10 seconds for the Jade Talisman to be activated to enter the Gate of Light. Anyone who wasn't an idiot understood what was going on. Jade Talismans can allow cultivators to enter the spatial passageway of the ruins. Do all of those cultivators have Jade Talismans? Just how tempting was the alternate dimension? Everyone immediately provided an answer. Human cultivators, hand over your Jade Talismans or die. A bloodthirsty light burst forth from the dark wolf god's eyes again, and the pitch-black scorching wind domain expanded outward as it unleashed its peerlessly powerful aura. In its eyes, those were only a few spirit-nurturing stage cultivators who knew what to do if they wanted to live. White Spirit Snake disappeared into the Gate of Light, and Tian Lingling turned to Enlin with a concerned expression. Continue, we'll hold them off outside. and Lin said calmly. Tian Lingling gritted her teeth and activated her jade talisman. The dark wolf god flew into a rage. You're courting death. At the same time, Xue Shun did not even bother to say anything. He held his blood spear and charged towards Lin and the others. At the same time, the ninjas, genetic warriors, reclusive sorcerer tribes, wolf packs, blood kings, all the forces of the various powers rushed toward Lin and the others. There were only 7 jade talismans left, and the number of spots was limited. How could he care about anything else now? Snatching one was one. At this moment, no one thought that Lin and the others would be able to survive. The army of 2 soul formation stage mighty figures and over 20 spirit nurturing stage cultivators was far too terrifying. Xianyuan Cheng took out an array disc. Rumble. A gargantuan spell formation appeared around the gate of light. Scorching flames and golden lightning of extreme yang swept out in all directions. With an unstoppable force, they directly repelled the army's attack. Blood God Duke and the Dark Wolf God were also forced into retreat by the terrifying power of the spell formation. These were none other than the Tai Chi Spirit Absorption Formation and Phoenix Flame Golden Lightning Formation that Xianyuan Cheng and Su Xiaolan had set up. Xianyuan Cheng temporarily stored these spell formations into his array disc before setting them up in front of the Gate of Light. Expressions of shock appeared on the faces of all the powers present at the sight of this extremely powerful spell formation. Even the Blood God and the Dark Wolf God had grave expressions on their faces. There's a limit to the power of this spell formation. The more we attack, the faster its power will be depleted. A peculiar light flashed past the Dark Wolf God's eyes. As soon as it finished speaking, the powerhouses from the various forces knew that time was of the essence and immediately began to attack with all their might. Rumble. The multicolored and extremely powerful attack caused the array formation to tremble violently. Tian Lingling had already entered the spatial gate, followed by Yao Mingxi and Hu Guan. After Hu Guan and Yao Mingxi entered the spatial gate, the power of the defensive spell formation was almost completely depleted. It was as thin as a thin piece of paper and could be torn apart at any moment. And Lin looked at the remaining 4 people with a smile. Who's going first? A faint smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. The other 3 also looked at Lin with smiles on their faces. And Lin scratched his head sheepishly. Then let's have a go. I've been itching for a long time. Do you really think we're pushovers? Tang Shimin chuckled heartily as he drew his long sword. Do you want to keep him alive? Xianyuan Cheng asked as he drew his antiquated long sword. They all want to kill us and steal our treasures. Don't worry, it's not against the law. And Lin chuckled. A black streak of light fell like a bolt of lightning, tearing apart the final barrier of the spell formation. And Lin and the others were just about to act when another unexpected scene unfolded. 5 or 6 powerful Hua Nation cultivators finally stopped hesitating and flew toward Lin and the others, standing on the same side as them. Hurry up and go in. We can't let the treasures fall into the hands of foreign forces. Fatty Chunjing Tian yelled. Hurry up and go into the ruins. We'll hold them off. Another cultivator also spoke with a grave expression. Not only Lin, but even Xianyuan Cheng and the others were astonished by this scene. These cultivators chose to stand up to the enemies and allow Lin and the others to enter the spatial passageway. One had to realize that these cultivators would most likely die in the face of the Blood God and Wolf God's attacks. Brother, of course we have to enter the ruins. However, we have to kill these suicidal enemies first. And Lin smiled at Qinjing Tian as he drew his evil slaying sword. What are you saying? Are you guys going to fight? Chen Jingtian's expression faltered. Dream on. None of you are going to get away. The Dark Wolf God had already appeared before Lin, and its sharp, inky black claws descended upon Lin with the power of death. And Lin's eyes turned snowy white, and streams of white wind revolved around his sword as he closed in on the Dark Wolf God at an even more terrifying speed. Black light and white light intertwined, but there was no collision. In the next instant, the dark wolf god switched places with Lin and appeared in his opponent's previous position. The dark wolf god's eyes widened with shock and disbelief. How could this be? You're only of the spirit nurturing stage. You're only of the spirit nurturing stage. A ghastly gash extended from the dark wolf god's head all the way to its tail. Swish! Blood splattered through the air. The dark wolf god's body was sliced in half right before the astonished eyes of countless powerful beings. A mighty figure of the soul formation stage had fallen just like that, caught off guard. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The Hua Nation cultivators who wanted to shield Lin and the others from entering the ruins also gaped in shock, unable to believe what they were seeing. After doing all this, Lin waved his sword through the air in a very natural manner as he looked at the powerful beings charging toward him with a cold expression. In the next instant, Su Qinyan, Su Xiaolan, Xianyuan Cheng, and Tang Shimin also sprang into action. They were going to show these powerful beings what the true terror of the spirit-nurturing stage was. Chapter 3:16. After the Dark Wolf God was insta-killed, Blood God Duke stopped in his tracks. Which was more important, entering the ruins or his life? Of course his life was more important. At this moment, a lithe and graceful woman in a green dress was already charging toward him. Duke's expression shifted. This woman was only of the spirit-nurturing final stage. Should I insta-kill her, steal a jade talisman, and rush into the ruins? He might not be able to defeat the cultivator with the black sword, but his life force was much more powerful than the Dark Wolf gods. He wouldn't die even if he were to be mortally wounded by a dozen or so sword strikes. He might as well take advantage of the situation. As long as he didn't fight the cultivator who killed the Dark Wolf god head-on, he would be fine. Duke glanced toward the cultivator with the black sword. The cultivator didn't move, but the woman in the green dress had already charged toward him. A ferocious expression finally appeared on his face. Die! Duke condensed a crimson spear and unleashed his full power, stabbing it toward the woman in the green dress like a bolt of lightning. In that instant, the entire space screeched from the sudden thrust of the crimson spear, and vital energy surged violently like a tidal wave. This was his full power strike, and he was aiming to puncture the woman's heart with a single strike. The woman flipped out a long sword in her hand, one blade burning with raging flames and the other crackling with lightning. Heaven and earth trembled as the sword fell. Duke's eyes widened, and a sense of fear suddenly welled up in his heart. Then, the suffocating power of fire and lightning crushed the crimson spear and sliced his body in half. The sword strike didn't stop there, and the water of the heavenly lake was also sliced in half. Lightning wreaked havoc, and the terrifying flames caused the surface of the lake to boil. At the same time, the two halves of the blood god's body wailed in agony. The heaven and earth scorched the two halves of his body, and the terrifying lightning obliterated every inch of his flesh and consciousness. His powerful life force was being destroyed at an insane rate. The Blood Tribe was most proud of their powerful life force. Even if their bodies were sliced in half, they could still regenerate. But in this situation, it looked like he was about to be killed by a single sword strike. Duke's expression was filled with despair, and there was only one voice roaring in his heart. This is King Spirit Nurturing Stage? Such a terrifying sword strike, and you're telling me this is King Spirit Nurturing Stage? The azure-clothed woman was none other than Su Xiaolan. She stood proudly in midair with her dragon sparrow sword in her hand. She looked down at the two halves of the body in the air with a cold expression, as if she were a celestial maiden who had descended from the heavens. The majestic blood god Duke's flesh and blood had turned into green smoke amidst the flames and lightning. Another instant kill? The cultivators who were hesitating whether to participate in the battle widened their eyes in disbelief. The Chinese cultivators turned to look at the woman in the sky with awe in their eyes. That was a blood god with an extremely terrifying life force. Yet it was slain by a cultivator of the spirit-nurturing stage with a single sword strike. This was simply indescribable. Even though it had happened right before their very eyes, they still found it hard to believe. Even Lin was a little surprised. This was the first time he had seen Xiaolan, who had perfectly integrated Shun Yin's inheritance, in action. He didn't think that she would be able to slay a soul formation initial stage blood god with a single strike. The combination of the dragon and phoenix bloodlines, coupled with the immortal tool, the dragon sparrow sword, really was a force to be reckoned with. As for those hostile foreign forces, they were so scared that their teeth were chattering. However, this was only the beginning of their nightmare. Su Qinyun wielded the moonlight disc, which flew through the air in a series of blue trajectories. She was unstoppable among the dark wolf tribe wolves. Regardless of whether it was the ferocious wolves or the powerful wolf king, all of them were sliced in half before they could even take a single strike. Tang Shimin faced off against a few fully armored genetic warriors, but he was also able to slay them with a single sword strike without any hesitation. Alloy armor? Sliced through with a single sword strike. Flames, ice, blades of wind, missiles, light cannons, electromagnetic weapons. A peerlessly domineering sword projection crushed all of them. The genetic warriors from the United States were all slain on the spot. They were supposed to be invincible below the soul formation stage, but now they were being pummeled like dogs by a spirit-nurturing stage cultivator. Xin Yuan Cheng slashed 2 massive gashes into the backs of 2 fleeing red-robed blood kings. Blood splattered onto the surface of the lake, turning it crimson. Damn it! Where did these cultivators come from? Even Master Duke was killed. One of the blood kings looked behind him with lingering fear. He finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Xin Yuan Cheng wasn't chasing after them. Thankfully, not all of the spirit-nurturing stage cultivators in that team were as terrifying. We managed to escape with our lives. Another blood king had a look of relief on his face. Myriad spirit fate die. Xin Yuan Cheng's soft cry traveled over from the distance. The sword wounds on the backs of the 2 blood kings suddenly began to fester and spread in all directions. Their life force was draining away at an alarming rate. Ah, damn it, what is this? One of the blood kings howled in pain. He looked toward his companion, who was fleeing with him, and an expression of despair suddenly appeared on his face. His companion's face withered, and his hair turned white. In the end, his life force dissipated, and he crashed to the ground. No, the Blood King howled in despair. Then his body also began to plummet toward the ground. Xin Yuan Cheng was very busy. He turned around and charged toward the hidden sorcerer tribe. The 3F** King stupid ninjas used a concealment spell technique to conceal themselves near the heavenly lake gate of light. Their bodies trembled slightly, and they almost pissed themselves in fear. They had initially planned to take advantage of the chaos to steal their jade talismans, but then they saw Enlin insta-kill the wolf god. Hitaki Shunshanshi made a prompt decision to not target Enlin. Instead, he planned to target the other team members. That woman looks weak and fragile. She's only spirit nurturing final stage. Let's assassinate her. Team leader is wise. However, before they could even make a move, they saw the woman slay the blood god with a single slash of her sword. Hitaki, Shunshi, the other 2 superior ninjas shuddered. A chill ran down their spines. Thank God they didn't attack her. Let's look at the others. Hitaki Shunshi gritted his teeth and looked toward the other cultivators who had jade talismans. One of them had beaten the Dark Wolf tribe into a sorry state. Another had annihilated the entire team of DNA warriors. Another had used a strange sword technique to kill 2 Blood Kings. Now he was chasing after the hidden sorcerer tribe. Hitaki Shunshi felt a little weak, and his chest felt a little tight. F***CK are all the spirit-nurturing stage cultivators in this team freaks. Thinking back to how he had wanted to take the head of the enemy leader from this team, he felt a chill run down his spine. Team leader, should we make a tactical retreat? One of the team members couldn't help but suggest. Hitaki Shunshi felt like this team member was right and immediately nodded. All right, learning to endure humiliation is the #1 rule of a ninja. Thus, the 3 of them unleashed concealment spell techniques and tried to sneak away. Oof. I knew you stupid F** King Japanese would come here. I've finally found you. A voice full of energy suddenly exploded in the ears of the three people. The three of them turned around to find a fatso standing behind them. He was holding a disc of abstruse secrets in his hand, and he was looking at them with a cold smile on his face. It was none other than the talisman prodigy, Chun Jingtian. A golden talisman had already appeared beside the three of them at some point in time. Crap, retreat. Hataki Shunshi yelled. Boom! The terrifying explosion transformed into a huge ball of flames that swept forth in all directions, transforming the area within a radius of 100 feet into a sea of flames. How's the taste of my talismans? Don't even think about getting away. Chun Jingtian laughed heartily as he tossed out another 3 talismans, each of which formed a white cage formation that trapped the 3 of them in place. Die! Hataki Shunshi glowered at Chun Jingtian with a cold expression. Chun Jingtian was only a spirit-nurturing final stage cultivator, and he wasn't a member of the freak team, so Hataki Shunshi wasn't afraid of him. Kill him! Hataki Shunshi roared as he sprang into action. The other 2 Jonins also charged toward Chun Jingtian as the kunai in their hands glowed with a cold light. Kontong Fire Snake. Chun Jingtian tossed out another talisman, which transformed into thousands of fire snakes with sharp fangs that pounced toward the 3 Jonins. The 2 Jonins unleashed water dragon missiles, which crashed into the group of fire snakes, causing water vapor to rise into the air. A bolt of lightning pierced through the water vapor. It was Hataki Shunshi who had broken through the attack of the fire snakes. The bolt of lightning in his hand was imbued with terrifying power as it flew toward Chun Jingtian. This was a technique that Hataki Shunshi was most proud of as a ninja. He could definitely kill a fat and talisman-throwing sorcerer like Chun Jingtian with one strike. However, right at this moment, the flying sword beneath Chun Jingtian's feet suddenly appeared in his hand. Whoosh! A flawless sword projection clashed with a bolt of lightning in Hataki Shunshi's hand. Boom! A terrifying shockwave swept through the air. Hataki Shunshi stumbled back frantically as blood flowed from his hand. He looked up at Chun Jingtian with shock on his face. Holy F***CK. Aren't you supposed to be a talisman prodigy? Chun Jingtian held his sword in front of him as his aura transformed into that of a sword immortal. Fat Otaku wields unparalleled sword. Hataki Shunshi. Baka. Chapter 317. Hataki Shunshi was also enraged by Chun Jingtian's words. Wielding his ninjato, he started fighting with Chun Jingtian. The 2 Jonins also joined the battle, occasionally using various spells to attack Chun Jingtian. However, Chun Jingtian was still able to use his exquisite swordsmanship to completely suppress Hataki Shunshi. What the hell? He's known as a talisman genius in China. Why is his swordsmanship so powerful? The more Hataki Shunshi fought, the more shocked he became. He was trapped by the sword auras, and it was as if he was trapped in a quagmire. Even escaping was an extravagant hope. Chun Jingtian smiled faintly. Even if Fatty has a dream of becoming a sword immortal. The reason why he was known as a talisman prodigy was purely because when he was at home, he would draw talismans when he had nothing better to do. Master Yu Mu had taken a liking to him. His aptitude for talismans was very high, but his favorite was still the sword. His strongest weapon was the sword. Eat my move, 2 dragons toying with a pig. Chun Jingtian flicked the tip of his sword, and 9 water dragons roared furiously towards the man in front of him. Hataki Shunshi was shocked. Weren't there supposed to be 2 dragons playing with a pearl? Why were there 9 dragons? As he retreated, he chopped the water dragon with his ninjato, but Chun Jingtian was nowhere to be seen. Hataki Shunshi immediately went on high alert and looked around. Finally, he saw that Chun Jingtian was actually aiming his spear at his 2 teammates. One had already been sliced in half by Chun Jingtian, and the other had been trapped by a talisman. Hataki Shunshi flew into a rage. Baka! Then, he turned around and ran. Yes, he was making a strategic retreat. His teammates had already stalled the fatty. He couldn't let his teammates' sacrifice go to waste. After killing the second Jonin, Chan Jingtian turned around and looked at Hitaki Shun Shunshi, who was running away with a mocking smile on his face. Do you really think you can escape? Hitaki Shun Shunshi thought that he had already escaped with his life, but suddenly, the space around him began to warp slightly. Am I hallucinating? He turned his head to look behind him and saw a halo of blue light that resembled a beautiful crescent moon. A chill of death filled his heart, and his whole body trembled. In the next instant, the wheel of light disappeared. More accurately speaking, the moonlight wheel was already behind him. Hitaki Shun Shunshi had never imagined that he, who had led an invincible life, would die in such a mysterious manner in the end. The blue moonlight returned to Su Qinyun's side and circled around her slender waist like a fairy. Blood had already dyed the heaven lake red. Countless experts had fallen, and the ones dominating this battlefield were the five-spirit nurturing final stage cultivators. The blood race, the dark wolf race, the ninjas, the hidden sorcerer race, the genetic warriors, and the scattered experts of the foreign forces were almost all dead. The remaining cultivators who didn't attack all stood in place, not even daring to breathe loudly. They looked at the five people on the lake with reverence. In the forest, the stupid yin-yang master trembled all over and could only sigh helplessly. The cultivators of Cathay are truly crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Let's retreat. A certain white, round, levitating orb began to fly back to America after recording some shocking data. In a certain hidden strategy department, everyone looked at the feedback data with a sour expression. Many of the powerful cultivators who had refrained from attacking all retreated. This was no longer something that they could lay their eyes on. They had developed a new understanding of the Huan Nation cultivators. If they had to use a word to describe them, it would be terrifying. This battle had given them far too much shock. The cultivators of the Huan Nation were not to be messed with. This was going to become an ironclad rule. Otherwise, a spirit-nurturing stage cultivator could come and kill their ancestor. Brother, now that the enemies have been taken care of, I'm going to go into the ruins. Shall we have a drink after we come out? And Lin led everyone to Chun Jingtian and the others with a smile. From the moment Chun Jingtian and the others stood in front of Lin and the others, and Lin had already viewed them as friends. Chun Jingtian was a little dazed. He didn't think that these people would be able to win against such powerful enemies. Furthermore, they had won so cleanly and decisively. All right, let's drink to our heart's content then. Chun Jingtian wasn't a pretentious person, and he immediately nodded in agreement. The two of them exchanged phone numbers and waved goodbye. This time, and Lin, Su Xiaolan, Su Qinyun, Xinyuan Cheng, and Tang Shimin used their jade talismans to enter the spatial gate. No one dared to stop them anymore, and they left the heavenly lake in peace. Chun Jingtian heaved a light sigh as he looked at the five of them. Initially, Master told me that these ruins didn't belong to us and told me not to go. I didn't believe him at first. These ruins clearly belong to everyone, so why would they have to hand it over to the nation? But now I believe him. Some things can't be forced. In any case, this battle was still very meaningful. At the very least, we've made the cultivators of the other nations fearful of us. This is a great honor to the Huan Nation cultivators. Another male cultivator chimed in. Chun Jingtian faltered slightly upon hearing this before nodding with a smile on his face. He clasped his hands behind his back, and his robes fluttered in the gentle breeze. A fatso like this made him look like a powerful cultivator. At the same time, a man wearing aviator sunglasses was stowing away one turtle shell after another at the edge of the heavenly lake. He turned to the beautiful woman beside him with a smile. I told you, Mr. and Lin's trip to the heavenly lake was completely risk-free, but you refused to believe me. The woman pursed her lips. That's enough. Crackshot clairvoyant lives up to his reputation. You're too kind. I'm just so. The man adjusted his aviator sunglasses with a nonchalant expression on his face. The woman rolled her eyes at clairvoyant before putting away her people with a smile. Who would have thought that the cultivator who bought the complete collection of sword techniques foundation from me for 5 spirit stones would have already become a true sword immortal? This woman's name was Dreamy Voice Fairy. Back then, it was because she saw that Enlin's swordsmanship was extremely clumsy, so she sold Enlin a book called Unique Basic Swordsmanship Encyclopedia. Unexpectedly, 2 years later, Enlin was already able to kill the wolf god with a single strike. The world was truly full of vicissitudes and unpredictable changes. Master God Diviner nodded. Everyone has their own destiny. Instead of being envious of others, why don't you work hard? Who knows? Maybe one day you'll be the next heaven-defying person. Ming Yin shrugged. I have no enmity with the heavens, so why would I go against it? You should leave this to White Spirit Snake. Master God Diviner nodded, and the two of them smiled in response. After packing his belongings, he left the Heaven Lake. Another piece of news was spread in the All the Cultivators of the World Unite to Protect Earth group chat, causing a sensation. In an instant, the group exploded with activity. The Savior, F***, fellow Taoist and Lin and his teammates, are too awesome, aren't they? They're practically rubbing the experts of various countries together on the ground. Taoist Wooden Ox, I'm starting to regret not going to the Heaven Lake to witness that battle. Enlightened Lazarite. I was wondering why fellow Taoist and Lin brought so many people with him when he descended into the mortal world. Turns out he's heading for the alternate dimension ruins. Green River Sword Immortal. We also have 2 lucky souls in the group. That's quite surprising. Taoist Red WRM. Why not me? Crying emoji. Atomic Bomb Fairy. Who would choose a useless dragon like you? Disdainful emoji. Cloud Exploring Taoist. +1 Taoist Red WRM. Calm Celestial Maiden. How infuriating. I knew those two had a secret. So it was this secret. Dongfang Shui finally recalled in Lin and Tian Lingling's abnormal behavior that night, and her heart was instantly crushed. There were still all sorts of discussions going on in the group. At this moment, and Lin had already entered the spatial passageway. He was embarking on a new adventure. Chapter 3:18. Within a vast expanse of darkness, Lin felt a soft and warm hand caressing his forehead. His body swayed along with the wooden planks beneath him, and he could hear the rumbling of wheels and the clattering of hooves. This was very strange. A sense of alertness welled up in Lin's mind, and he immediately opened his eyes as he sat up. Ah! A gentle female scream sounded beside him, and she immediately withdrew her hand as if she had been electrocuted as she stared intently at Enlin. A tomb keeper? Enlin asked upon seeing the woman in white. What did you say? The woman was still in shock. Enlin came to his senses. He had just spoken the Tai Chu language, but the woman had spoken in Mandarin. Are you a tomb keeper? Enlin asked again in Mandarin. The woman faltered again upon hearing this. What are you talking about, sir? I'm a doctor. Huh? Enlin blinked in confusion. He looked around to find that he was in a barren desert with an extremely wide field of vision. He could even see eagles soaring in the sky and the sun hanging high in the sky. He pulled his gaze back to find that he was sitting on an open horse-drawn carriage. There was a herd of extremely majestic horses pulling carts of goods around him, and there were a few dozen people with swords strapped to their waists following them on horseback. Was this a tomb? Enlin. He drew a sharp intake of breath, and his face was deathly pale. Miss, may I ask where this place is? Oh, this is the Flying Cloud Desert, the woman in white replied. Enlin's lips twitched slightly. Tai Chu continent? The woman in white's brows furrowed slightly as she looked at Enlin with a serious expression. You seem a little strange. Did something happen to you? This world is called the Zhanqi continent. What is the Tai Chu continent? Enlin chuckled as he looked at the woman. Zhanqi continent? This dream was so realistic. Was this some kind of illusionary realm? It had to be fake. His storage ring flashed, and his evil-slaying sword appeared in his hand. Since it's a dream, then wake up. Enlin roared as he slashed his evil-slaying sword down toward his own arm. Ah, what are you doing? The white-clothed woman's beautiful eyes widened as she screamed. Then, her face was splattered with blood. Hiss! And Lin clenched his teeth as he looked at the bloodstains on his arm. He sucked in a breath of cold air as a sharp pain, as if his bones and flesh were being torn apart, spread throughout his body. Holy shit, is it not a dream? He looked at his arm in a daze, his brain forgetting to think. Bai Shuyan, are you all right? A man rushed over. When he saw the blood on the woman's face, he was about to explode in anger. However, when he saw the bloodstain on Lin's arm, he couldn't help but be stunned. I'm fine. It's just that this man's emotions don't seem too stable. He was just slashing at himself with his sword. The woman hurriedly explained. The man, you call this fine? What if this lunatic suddenly slashes at you with a sword? Bai Shuyan, she suddenly felt like she couldn't come up with a retort. Furthermore, it seemed to make a lot of sense, so she turned to look at the man before her. And Lin was also looking at her as he extended his bleeding arm toward her. I heard you're a doctor. Can you help me with this? Bai Shuyan, the man began to scold him with rage again. I told you not to rescue a stranger, but you refused to listen. Aren't you just adding to the burden on our caravan? This is a waste of food and medicine. That's enough. If you're really unhappy, just throw me off the caravan as well. Bai Shuyan's expression froze as she cut him off. The man's voice faltered as he stared at Lin with a dark expression. Then, he swept his sleeve through the air and walked away with a dark expression. There was only one doctor in this caravan, and that was a rare occupation. If he really left her here, no one would be able to treat the injuries of the caravan if they were attacked by mutant beasts. Furthermore, with that woman's status, he didn't have the guts to do that. That man just then is the caravan leader, Chen Ming. He's a very annoying talker, so don't take it to heart. Bai Shuyan washed her face with clean water to wash away the blood stains on her face, upon which her exquisite features were revealed again. Then, she cleaned the wound on Lin's arm and applied some ointment before wrapping it up gently. Lin was expressionless as he looked around at his surroundings with a blank expression on his face. He pulled out his voice transmission talisman to try again, only to find that there was no connection. He pulled out his phone, but there was no signal. During this period of time, Bai Shuyan had been very diligent in her treatment. After wrapping up the wound, she gently laid her hands over Lin's wound, upon which a white light began to shimmer. Lin's expression shifted slightly as he sensed a strange power. What is this white light? He asked in surprise. This is battle chi. My battle chi is a healing type. Have you lost your memory? How could you not know this? Bai Shuyan stared at Lin with curiosity on her face, not understanding why he would ask a question that even a 3-year-old would know. The Jiangxi continent has battle chi? Does that mean there are warrior, battle master, battle grandmaster, battle spirit, battle king, battle emperor, battle grandmaster, battle venerable, battle sage, and battle god? And Lin chuckled coldly. It was unclear whether he was laughing at himself or laughing at the world. How did you get so many ranks? Aren't there only battle master, battle spirit, battle monarch, battle emperor, battle sage, and battle god? Bai Shuyan was astonished, and Lin's lips twitched. He was going to go to the Shouyang tomb. So why the F***CK did he end up transmigrating to the Jiangxi continent? He was going to lose his mind. So be it if he was a useless transmigrator, but he was a man who was on the path of hacking. Why did he have to go to the Jiangxi continent now? Wasn't this just torturing him? It had to be said that Lin was already on the brink of a mental breakdown. He couldn't accept his fate, nor did he want to. He still had friends, family, and many things that he couldn't give up. Rumble. At this moment, the ground suddenly began to tremor. Mutant beasts are coming. Everyone be careful. Chen Meng yelled. Dozens of people pulled out the long swords at their waists and looked at the movement on the high slope with solemn expressions. All of a sudden, a dozen or so huge brown wolves appeared on the hill. These wolves were all over 10 feet in size, and there was a dangerous aura in their eyes. Crap! These are desert wolf kings. Each of them possesses battle spirit stage power. Bai Shuyan's features were deathly pale with panic etched on her face. And Lin looked at the wolves with a shocked expression. Battle spirit stage? Are they very powerful? Bai Shuyan seemed to have gotten used to Lin's ignorance by now, and she explained, "Only Chunming and I are battle spirit stage in our caravan. Everyone else is a battle master. My battle chi is more of a regenerative type, so I can only take on one desert wolf king at most. So you're all screwed." And Lin nodded with a cold expression. Bai Shuyan flared up with rage. "What do you mean by that expression? If we die, you're gonna die too. Can't you be a little more serious? You really saved an ingrate. Don't worry, big sister. I'm a man who's going to destroy the heavens. It's just a dozen desert wolf kings. I can destroy them with a flick of my finger," and Lin said with a serious expression. Bai Shuyan's lips twitched as she thought to herself that she had saved an insane person. She ignored Lin and ran over to Chunmeng's side to face off against the Desert Wolf Kings with a few dozen caravan members, hoping to force them away. However, the Desert Wolf Kings became even more excited. The dozen or so Desert Wolf Kings charged toward the caravan with bloodthirsty auras, bearing their sharp fangs. All of the caravan members trembled uncontrollably with fear, and even Chunmeng and Bai Shuyan's faces had turned deathly pale. However, they had no choice but to fight. If they chose to run under these circumstances, they would undoubtedly die. Whoosh! A dazzling sword intent flashed through the air with earth-shattering power, pulverizing the dozen or so Desert Wolf Kings. Boom! The monstrous power continued onward, and even the rocky slope was sliced in half, as if an entire section of the earth had been sliced in half. Everyone was rooted to the spot as they stared in shock at the scenes unfolding before their eyes. Bai Shuyan seemed to have sensed something, and she turned around to look behind her. All of the other caravan members, including Chunmeng, also turned to look behind them with wide eyes. A strangely dressed man was putting his long sword away into his storage ring with a nonchalant expression. Done. Chapter 319. Did he do it? The same thought appeared in everyone's mind. Chunmeng swallowed nervously. He was just thinking about throwing Lin off the carriage a while ago, but now that he thought about it, he was about to go crazy. If he had known that Lin was this powerful, he would never have dared to do that. It took a long time for everyone in the caravan to accept the fact that Lin was a powerful cultivator. From then on, their attitudes toward him underwent a complete 180-degree turnaround as everyone became extremely respectful toward him. Delicious food and drinks were all delivered to the caravan. These items were extremely important to the caravan, but they were still delivered to them as if they didn't cost anything. The leader of the caravan, Chunmeng, also made his way over to Lin and bowed in apology. Lin had never taken offense to their attitude, so he waved his hand dismissively to dismiss them. Bai Shuyan made her way over to Lin's side. There were countless questions she wanted to ask, but she didn't dare to ask them. "Tell me about your world. I need to reconstruct my worldview." "You're right. I'm an alien," Lin replied with a nonchalant expression. Bai Shuyan, she sighed with emotion. As expected of a powerful cultivator, even his words and actions were so unique. After calming herself down, Bai Shuyan introduced the Zhanqi continent to Lin. They were currently in the Flying Cloud Desert, which was part of the Flying Cloud Nation. There were 3 empires for divine flames and 5 divine weapons on the Zhanqi continent. The Flying Cloud Nation was a vassal state of the Ao Xian Empire, and each of these empires had a battle god who ruled over all nations. This caravan was transporting goods to the capital of the Flying Cloud Nation, Luoyun City. Lin listened to Bai Shuyan's description and asked with a curious expression, "Then in your eyes, what level of powerful cultivator do you think I am on the Zhanqi continent?" Bai Shuyan's face paled upon hearing this, and she hurriedly replied, "Senior, your combat prowess is unfathomable. I don't dare to make assumptions." On the Zhanqi continent, martial prowess reigned supreme, and it was extremely disrespectful to judge a cultivator's strength without permission. She respected Lin from the bottom of her heart, so she naturally didn't dare to speak carelessly. "Then, do you think the battle monarch was able to use that sword attack of mine?" Lin changed the way he asked. Bai Shuyan faltered slightly upon hearing this, and she paused momentarily before replying, "I'm not very knowledgeable. but I've witnessed battles between battle kings. But I've never seen a battle king unleash such an astonishing attack. And Lin nodded. That slash just now was just a casual wave of his hand. This meant that he was at least at the level of a combat emperor. Combat masters, combat spirits, combat monarchs, combat emperors, combat sages, and combat emperors. It was said that the strongest cultivator in the Flying Cloud Nation was only a combat emperor, while combat sages were the strongest cultivators in the entire continent. Combat emperors stood at the top of the pyramid, and there were only 3 of them in the entire continent. No one knew how strong they were. A conflicted expression appeared on by Shu Yin's face for a long while before she continued. Senior and Lin, the power you used, I just feel like it's a little unfamiliar. It's not battle chi? And Lin asked with a hint of a smile on his face. That's right. Bai Shuyan nodded nervously. Seeing as Lin didn't seem to mind this topic, she continued. We cultivators of battle chi can always sense the surging of battle chi. However, I could only sense a vast amount of energy from your sword attack, but I couldn't sense any fluctuations of battle chi. And Lin smiled. Don't think too much about that. Bai Shuyan nodded obediently and didn't bring up this topic again. And Lin was starting to understand. Battle chi was a type of energy that was unique to this continent, while the vital energy he used seemed to be a type of energy that was omnipresent in the entire universe. He didn't know if there was a difference in power between these 2 types of energy, but battle chi could allow living beings to evolve and advance to a higher level of life. So this type of energy was not to be underestimated. A day later, they arrived at Luo Yun City. And Lin was momentarily dazed as he looked at the majestic city and the bustling crowds. He had actually transmigrated after all. Senior and Lin, I'll be taking my leave now. If you need anything, you can come to the Bai Palace to find me. Bai Shuyan bowed slightly and bade farewell to Lin. And Lin's eyes lit up upon hearing this. I need something right now. Do you know where I can buy a map? The more detailed, the better. A vibrant smile appeared on Bai Shuyan's face. Then please come to the Bai Palace. There's a map of the entire continent there, but only the area within the Ao Exine Empire has a more detailed map. And Lin nodded and followed Bai Shuyan to the Bai Palace. Bai Shuyan was the daughter of a general of the Bai Palace. Her status in the Bai Palace wasn't too high, so she had the right to take Lin to the library. Within the library, Lin browsed through the world map of the Zhanqi continent, from the distribution of countries to the distribution of mountains and rivers. The Ao Exine Empire, the Snake Spirit Empire, and the Beihong Empire were the 3 most powerful empires on the continent. The Flying Cloud Nation was only a subsidiary nation of the Ao Exine Empire and was considered a medium-sized nation. The 4 most famous divine flames and 5 divine weapons of the continent were all located in the ancient Barren Realm. Apparently, battle god Su Ming of the Ao Exine Empire had obtained a divine weapon in the ancient Barren Realm, while battle god Ziyang of the Beihong Empire had obtained a type of divine flame. And Lin was quite interested in these divine weapons and divine flames. Men always pursued some bad *SS things in order to display their worth. For example, they wanted to ride the fiercest horses, drink the strongest alcohol, eat the most spicy dishes, and sleep with the most beautiful women. All right, I'll go to the ancient Barren Realm. After making up his mind, a middle-aged man with a long beard walked into the room and made his way toward Bai Shuyan. Little Yin, you're finally back. It hasn't been very peaceful lately, so you should stay in a manor and don't go out to gather herbs. The man's voice was calm and gentle, but it was tinged with an authoritative tone. Father, why are you suddenly bringing this up? I'm a doctor. Bai Shuyan was a little panicked. The most important thing in their profession was training. There was no room for improvement if they stayed in the manor. The man shook his head. It's not that I don't want you to go. Do you know what happened to the Dezhou Nation? What happened to the Dezhou Nation? Bai Shuyan's expression faltered. The man replied with a solemn expression. The ruler of the Dezhou Nation was killed. Apparently, he was lusting after a woman's beauty and tried to force himself on her, only to be slain on the spot by that woman. The ensuing battle resulted in countless deaths and injuries in the imperial palace. The Dezhou Nation has fallen into complete chaos, and our empire has also been affected by it. And Lin's heart jolted upon hearing this. Wasn't the Dejone nation a neighbor of the Flying Cloud Nation? They were about as powerful as the Flying Cloud Nation, and their ruler was also a battle emperor stage powerful being. From the looks of it, that woman was quite powerful. He was taking pleasure in her misfortune. It was said that beautiful women were the source of trouble. This ruler had really gotten himself into trouble and had even lost his life. How was that woman so powerful? Who is she? Bai Shuyan's expression was filled with shock and curiosity. She was extremely curious about the woman's identity. The man's brows furrowed slightly as he shook his head. That's quite strange. That woman doesn't belong to any of the powerful beings that we know of. Her weapon of choice is an extremely terrifying blue full moon. She's a very mysterious person, and I've heard some information about her. It seems like she's also speaking an unfamiliar language. In any case, little Yin, don't go out there. We'll talk about it after this incident blows over. The man's words exploded in Lin's mind. Blue full moon? An unfamiliar language? A thought surfaced in his mind, and he began to tremble with excitement. Chapter 320. Fellow Cultivator, may I ask if you know where that mysterious woman is right now? Lin made his way over and extended a respectful salute. The man's brows furrowed slightly. Wasn't he supposed to call Lin a comrade? Why was he referring to him as fellow cultivator? He didn't think much of it and merely thought that Lin was a friend of his daughter's. I only know that the mysterious woman has flown toward the eastern region of the Dejone nation, but I don't know her exact whereabouts. Thank you. Lin nodded before turning to Bai Shuyan with a smile. I still have some urgent matters to attend to, so I'll be taking my leave now. Goodbye, senior. Bai Shuyan had some speculations in her mind, so she didn't try to persuade him to stay. A streak of black light suddenly appeared beneath his feet, and Lin rose into the air atop the black light before flying into the clouds. This is Object Kinesis Flight. My God, this is an ability that only cultivators at or above the Battle Monarch stage can master. The man exclaimed before turning to his daughter. Yin, is that senior your friend? Bai Shuyan shook her head with a forlorn expression as she stared at his departing figure. No, he and I are just strangers who met by chance. In the sky above, and Lin switched from sword kinesis flight to brick kinesis flight again. He was feeling extremely agitated at this moment. He had thought that he had transmigrated to a strange world by himself. But now, there was a mysterious woman. If that person was Su Qianyun, then the implications were completely different. With this in mind, he sped up again. The Dejone nation was currently in a state of chaos. Most of the powerful cultivators in the imperial family had been killed, and their position as the nation's ruler was on the brink of collapse. All of the major sects were trying to stabilize the situation, while others were trying to establish a new regime. There were even some who had allied with powerful cultivators from neighboring countries to ambush that mysterious woman. However, what was even more alarming was that all three of their attempts had ended in failure, and 4 battle emperors had been slain as a result. This incident had even alerted the Aoxian Empire. One had to realize that battle emperors were extremely powerful cultivators even across the entire empire. How could they not be alarmed by the fact that so many of them had been slain in quick succession? This was the 4th ambush, and this time, even the Aoxian Empire had sent people over. They had no choice. The ruler of their subsidiary kingdom had been killed, and the incident had escalated to such an extent. It was time to put an end to this farce. They had to show the world that the Aoxian Empire was not to be humiliated. Sect leader Duan Mujuan of the Yellow Dragon Sect, Sect leader Dong Tian of the Thousand Secrets Pavilion, Sect leader Kong Ling of the 10,000 Flower Sect, King Ding Mao of the Yinshan Country, and Ambassador Duan Tianyu of the Aoxian Empire. Duan Tianyu was a half-saint, so he would definitely be able to kill that mysterious woman as soon as he discovered her. The target had left the city. The target had caught a rabbit and was barbecuing it. The target had roasted the rabbit. The information from informants came one by one, and the 5 of them excitedly rushed to the location of their target. The bright moon hung high in the sky. In the lush forest, there was a bonfire. The beautiful woman was staring blankly at the charred rabbit. She missed little Yu, Sister Chang'e, her family and friends. The past few days had been a nightmare. No, the nightmares she had weren't that scary. In a strange world, he was alone without anyone to rely on. She had thought that she had encountered a kind-hearted man, but when she saw the greed in his eyes, she knew that he was up to no good. Even though she was still young and inexperienced, that didn't mean she was stupid. She could discern right from wrong. Hence, she chose to leave. However, the man used a spell technique on her in an attempt to trap her and do unspeakable things to her. In a fit of rage, she killed the man. However, this act became the source of endless trouble for her. That man seemed to have a very high status in this world, and soon she was being hunted down by people from all over the world. There was no end to the number of people she could kill. Wave after wave of people came, each time more ferocious than the last. It was as if they wouldn't stop as long as she didn't die. It was as if the only thing left in this world were her enemies. She looked up at the sky to find a silver moon hanging high in the night sky. It was completely devoid of any warmth, and a frosty chill assaulted her delicate body. For some reason, she felt a lump in her throat as she murmured to herself, "Can someone tell me what I should do?" Rumble, a powerful aura engulfed heaven and earth as it swept toward her. She stood up and tossed the charred rabbit meat onto the ground with a grave expression on her delicate face. Were they coming again? There were 5 of them this time, and their auras weren't weak at all. "You won't be able to escape this time, Vixen." A deep voice sounded in the sky as Duan Tianyu descended from the sky with 4 battle emperors in tow. Unfortunately, she didn't understand what Duan Tianyu was saying. She only felt that he seemed to be very pleased with himself. Duan Tianyu's expression faltered at the sight of the woman's cold and exquisite features, and a thought suddenly surfaced in his mind. Should he capture her alive, or should he kill her after enjoying her for a while? However, in the next instant, a bright blue arc of light seemed to leap through the air before instantly piercing through the body of the Yellow Dragon sect leader, Duan Mujuan. There was still a look of shock and horror on Duan Tianyu's face, but he didn't have time to react. Duan Tianyu drew a sharp breath. If he hadn't faced this attack head-on, he wouldn't have been able to sense just what kind of strange ability that was. In fact, he couldn't even sense the fluctuations of battle chi. "Set up the formation," he yelled decisively. This was not the time to lust after a woman's beauty. If they weren't careful, they could all be wiped out here. Dong Tian, Kong Ling, and Ding Mao were also given quite a fright. However, as battle emperors, their combat prowess was extremely high. They instantly took up their positions and set up the 4 Dragons Wind Lightning Formation. The original 5 Dragons Wind Lightning Formation had already lost Duan Mujuan, so there was no problem with 4 dragons. Rumble. Battle chi surged, wind and cloud surged, and thunder rumbled. The 4 of them took up positions with Duan Tianyu in the lead, and his aura instantly rose to the level of a battle sage. Gale force winds swept forth from his body, tearing apart all the trees within a radius of over 1,000 feet. The woman stood proudly in the midst of the gale force winds. The blue moonlight disk formed a barrier of light in front of her, keeping the gale force winds and lightning at bay. She could sense that a massive formation had already trapped her, and the power of the gale force winds and thunder was also becoming more and more turbulent. Duan Tianyu pointed his crimson longsword at the woman nearby. "This is the 4 Dragons Wind Lightning Formation," he said in a cold voice. "Even a battle sage can put up a fight against it. Prepare to die." He was hoping to see fear and shock on the woman's face after he finished speaking so that he could put on a good show. However, all he saw was a blue crescent moon. The hair on Duan Tianyu's back stood on end, and he immediately gathered the power of the formation onto his longsword before slashing it forward. Boom! Energy exploded, and the earth tremored violently. The moonlight disk collided with the longsword, and a crack appeared on his crimson longsword. The surging power from Duan Tianyu's longsword forced him back several steps before he could regain his balance. 4 dragons appear. An expression of shock appeared on his face, and he immediately unleashed the most powerful technique of the formation without any hesitation. At the same time, Dong Tian, Kong Ling, and Ding Mao hurriedly made hand seals to circulate their battle chi in a frenzy. Bolts of lightning flashed through the sky. Soon, flashing blue lightning dragons tore through the clouds before descending upon the earth. The woman looked up at the 4 lightning dragons in the sky and could sense the vast and powerful auras emanating from them. She immediately summoned the moonlight disk back to her side and constructed a blue moonlight barrier around herself. Die, demonic woman! Duan Tianyu pointed his crimson longsword at the woman from afar. The 4 lightning dragons crashed down from the sky before crashing toward Duan Tianyu's group of 4. Boom! The lightning exploded in all directions, pulverizing the ground and illuminating the night sky. The woman stared at the scenes unfolding before her with her bright blue eyes, and an expression of shock appeared on her face for the first time. She was finally stunned by Duan Tianyu's abilities. After all, it was very rare to see an enemy using a powerful technique these days. After that, a black-robed man descended from the sky before landing on the ground. It really is you, Su Qinyun. The familiar and excited voice made the woman's body tremble slightly. She stared blankly at the man before her, and she bit down on her soft lips as tears began to seep from the corners of her eyes. Her suppressed emotions instantly erupted like a flood. She moved on her own, opened her arms, and hugged the man in front of her tightly. "Wah, you're finally here. I was so scared. I thought I was the only one left in this world, wah." Su Qinyun sobbed loudly. She hadn't cried like this in a long time, and tears flowed freely down her face. She didn't dare to wipe them away, and she could only hug the man before her tightly for fear that he would run away if she let go. The man was none other than Lin. The woman's soft body trembled lightly, and the faint fragrance of osmanthus wafted through the air. He smiled and patted the woman's back. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." Chapter 321. Just as Lin and Su Qinyun were embracing each other passionately, Duan Tianyu crawled up from the ground as if he had seen a ghost. His body was charred black, and he swayed unsteadily as he opened his murky eyes. He threw up another mouthful of blood to discover that someone was abusing him. "Duan Tianyu, CKU, are you insane?" Dong Tian gritted his teeth as he lay on the ground. "Huh. If you want to die, then go ahead and die. Why are you dragging me down with you?" Kong Ling sat up and threw up a mouthful of blood. Ding Mao remained completely motionless as his body was charred black. It wasn't that he wasn't angry, it was that he was already dead. Duan Tianyu couldn't bring himself to say anything. He had clearly lured the 4 lightning dragons toward the woman, but the lightning dragons suddenly changed directions. How was he supposed to explain this? However, he wasn't an idiot. He knew that the man who had suddenly appeared was most likely the culprit behind this. "What? Weren't you acting all cocky just then? Why aren't you acting all fierce now?" Lin made his way toward Duan Tianyu with a smile on his face. Duan Tianyu's lips twitched. "Who are you?" "I'm here on orders from battle god Su Ming to capture the culprit behind the assassination of the Dezhou Empire. If you dare to do anything to me, you'll be making an enemy of the Xian Empire." "Hee, are you saying that only your ruler is allowed to be lustful, but a woman can't defend herself? This is a world where power is everything, so I understand what you're trying to say. I'll spare your worthless life and tell your battle god, Su Ming. I don't care if you're from the Xian Empire or the Leo Empire. I, and Lin, will destroy your empire if I don't like it." And Lin spoke with a disdainful expression. "You? How dare you?" Duan Tianyu glowered at Lin. He didn't think that someone would dare to insult battle god Su Ming, and he immediately clenched his fists. However, he didn't even have a chance to react before he was kicked flying by Lin. And Lin made his way over to Dong Tian. Dong Tian looked at him angrily and said, "We won't let this matter go so easily." "Oh." And Lin nodded coldly and killed Dong Tian with a single slash. Dong Tian's eyes widened in shock. He didn't expect that Lin would kill him so easily. "How dare you kill him?" Duan Tianyu roared furiously. I only said that I would spare your worthless life. I meant what I said, and Lin replied calmly and walked towards Kong Ling. Kong Ling was so frightened that her body trembled slightly. She forced a seductive smile onto her face. Sort of mortal and Lin. Kong Ling is willing to be your servant. I'm willing to do anything for you. I hope you can spare my life. And Lin looked at his face, which had been blackened by the lightning, and revealed a charming smile. It was simply blinding. I refuse. With a flash of black light, Kong Ling was dead. He then turned to look at Duan Tianyu and said, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and pass on the message, or else I'll kill you if I'm unhappy." Duan Tianyu shuddered upon hearing this, but he didn't dare to retort and could only leave reluctantly. Everything had been settled, and Lin stowed his evil-slaying sword into his storage ring and heaved a long sigh of relief. Su Qinyun strode lightly toward Lin with a dreamy expression in her blue eyes. "What were you guys talking about just then? Why did you let that man go?" she asked curiously, and Lin smiled and relayed their conversation to Su Qinyun, giving her an overview of the world. Su Qinyun's eyes widened. "Huh, doesn't that mean you're declaring war on the most powerful being on this continent? Why did you do that?" And Lin rubbed her head with a smile. "Because I met you. I'm sure the other team members are also in this world, so I want to make a name for myself. I'm sure my name will shake the entire continent when news of this gets out." Su Qinyun finally came to her senses and was elated. "Ah, classmate Lin is so smart." And Lin fell into a daze again at the sight of her enchanting smile and the faint dimples on her cheeks. He couldn't help but marvel at how beautiful she was. As for that method, it was an old one. All he did was expand the scope of his disruptive spell to the entire continent as a signal, hoping that the other team members would be made aware of his existence. And Lin and Su Qinyun found a good place to settle down and started a barbecue again. As a pioneer in outdoor barbecue, his barbecue skills were getting better and better. The grilled fish was a specialty of the Heavenly Lake, and Su Qinyun was full of praise for it. The two of them then began to talk about the Zhanqi continent. They could roughly gauge the combat prowess of the Zhanqi continent. In terms of combat prowess on the Tai Chu continent, battle masters and battle spirits were all at the Dao body stage, while battle kings and battle emperors were all at the spirit nurturing stage. As for battle sages, Lin and Su Qinyun hadn't encountered them, but they were most likely at the soul formation stage. Finally, the most powerful beings on the continent, battle gods, could be at the soul formation final stage or even higher. They hadn't fought them, so they couldn't make accurate guesses. However, in that case, the combat prowess of this continent was actually quite inferior to that of the Tai Chu continent. Then, there was the part that puzzled them. What the hell was the Shouyang tomb? Could it be that the alternate dimension that they had used jade talismans to enter was actually an alternate continent? That was way too far-fetched. There was another possibility, and that was that the Shouyang tomb was located somewhere on this alternate continent. There should be a way to leave this world there as well, but they had to be patient and search for it. The campfire was still blazing, and specks of golden sparks danced about like fireflies. Under the illumination of the flames, Su Qinyun's flawless little face appeared to be covered in a warm golden hue, making her appear even more captivating. She spoke with a concerned expression. "I wonder how the other team members are doing, especially White Spirit Snake and Tian Lingling. They're only at the Dao body stage, so this unfamiliar world is still too dangerous for them." Su Qinyun was like this. She would immediately start worrying about the safety of her friends if she fell behind in the slightest. Tian Lingling is a very weird girl, and she knows how to develop in a low-key manner. As for White Spirit Snake, I don't know much about her, so I'm quite worried. And Lin nodded. He felt like these two were important targets to watch out for. The night was long, and the two of them sat down to meditate after chatting for a long time. Su Qinyun felt very relaxed and at ease tonight. Perhaps it was because she was no longer alone. She snuck a glance at the man beside her to find that his features were handsome, and there was a look of determination in his eyes, giving her a sense of reliability. Could this be the legendary sense of security? A faint blush appeared on Su Qinyun's face with this in mind. She hurriedly closed her eyes and meditated off to the side. The sun slowly rose over the horizon, and the earth was dyed in color again. And Lin and Su Qingyun both opened their bright eyes, and their bodies were brimming with energy as if they really wanted to do something. Let's go do something. And Lin spoke with an excited expression. Chapter 322. A piece of news spread like wildfire and soon shook the entire Exine Empire, as well as the entire continent. A sword immortal by the name of Enlin dared to publicly provoke battle god Su Ming after defeating several battle emperors and envoys from the Exine Empire. He even threatened to invade the Exine Empire's imperial palace. The entire continent was in an uproar upon hearing this. The battle emperor was the supreme existence of the entire continent. His might was vast and mighty, and he was extremely noble. To the people of the world, battle gods were like the sun in the sky, untouchable and inviolable. But now, Sword Immortal Enlin actually dared to say that he was going to *CK the heavens. One had to realize that the grass on the grave of a battle sage who had accidentally offended a battle god was already 30 feet tall. Insane, this man had gone insane. This was the first thought that came to everyone's mind after hearing this news. In the northern region of the Jiangxi continent, within the Beihong Empire, at this moment, some well-informed people were discussing among themselves in a certain tavern. Hey, have you heard about what happened in the Exine Empire? Of course I've heard about it. It's causing quite a stir. It's been a long time since the authority of a battle god has been challenged like this. I think this crazy Enlin won't live for more than 3 days. TSK. Who would have thought that there would be such an arrogant man in this world? You call this arrogant man? He's overestimating himself. He's so arrogant just because he has some power. That's true. Battle god Su Ming is invincible. After obtaining the divine weapon, he has become even more invincible. Over a dozen battle sages have died by his hands. Sigh, only an idiot would dare to provoke him like this. Unbeknownst to them, the white-robed man at another table suddenly froze. A dazed expression appeared on his face for a long time. In the end, he burst into hearty laughter, which attracted the attention of all the customers around him. Exine Empire? Enlin, wait for me. The man unsheathed his ancient sword, and sword intent instantly swept through heaven and earth. He stepped on his flying sword and soared into the sky. His back view was confident and decisive, leaving behind a group of surprised customers. Enlin and Su Qingyun were wreaking havoc in the Exine Empire. Chunyang country. It was said that the Pure Sky Sword sect used the lives of hundreds of people to refine the sword billets every year, and they were still getting away with it, acting recklessly. It was the overlord of a region, and its strength was tyrannical. No one dared to do anything about it. Good. Watch us, the Maleficent duo, destroy you. Enlin barged into the sect with a single sword strike and killed the combat emperor Zhuang Baifan on the spot in the main hall. Su Qingyun's moonlight wheel was a merciless harvest. Dozens of combat king greatsword sect's elders were all killed with a single strike. The Pure Sky Sword sect was annihilated in a day. Higuagua. I heard that the Dragon Blood Devil sect reigned supreme over an area, and it crushed all the great sects and powers within the kingdom to the point they were unable to raise their heads. Moreover, because the sect possessed countless experts and an extremely terrifying sect guarding grand formation, no one dared to offend it. Good. Watch us, the Maleficent duo, destroy you. Enlin and Su Qingyun barged into the Dragon Blood Devil sect's lair and started a massacre at the slightest disagreement. The two combat emperors in the sect didn't even have a chance to escape before they were killed on the spot. Blood flowed like a river within the sect, and corpses littered the ground within a day. The Dragon Blood Devil sect no longer existed in this world. White Sun Country, Phoenix Country, one after another, their deeds spread like wildfire, causing everyone on the continent to stare in shock. No matter how much they disapproved of Enlin and Su Qingyun, what they had done now was extremely shocking. At the very least, many people no longer had any doubts about their strength. Enlin's reputation as Sword Immortal and Moonlight Holy Maiden had also truly spread throughout the entire continent. However, what truly shocked the world was what happened at the Jiaxing Pavilion. The Jiaxing Pavilion was one of the 10 great sects of the Ao-Xian Empire. Its sphere of influence covered the western region of the empire, and there were more than a dozen countries of various sizes. It was undoubtedly a colossus. The pavilion leader of the Jiaxing Pavilion, Ling Xiangla, and the Grand Elder Yi Chongshan were both battle sages. They were renowned top-tier powerful beings across the entire continent, and it was exactly because of this that even battle emperors would turn a blind eye to what the Jiaxing Pavilion did as long as they didn't go too far. There were many lavishly decorated palaces and pavilions situated between the ethereal mountains. At the highest peak, there was a pavilion shimmering with purple light. It was extremely beautiful and did not seem like an ordinary building. This was the main pavilion of the Jiaxing Pavilion, and it was the core of the sect. How is the demonic star flame coming along? A man with delicate features and a voice as crisp as a child's asked with his hands clasped behind his back as he slowly paced around within the main pavilion. The purple-robed elder bowed and replied, "Pavilion leader, the demonic star flame is still resisting very strongly. We are using the soul power of living beings to suppress the formation, but we are unable to force it to submit." The man with delicate features was none other than the Jiaxing Pavilion's pavilion leader, Ling Xiangla. Ling Xiangla's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly. Not being able to force it to submit doesn't mean that our methods are wrong. It's just that we don't have enough power. Gather another 200,000 living beings to fuse into the formation. The purple-robed elder shuddered and could only bow his head. Yes, pavilion leader. It looked like he would have to capture people from villages and towns again. What excuse would he use this time? A demonic beast invasion? Or a natural disaster? Just as the purple-robed elder was contemplating this matter, the ground suddenly began to tremor, followed by an earth-shattering boom. Boom! The Jiaxing Pavilion began to stir, and the alarm began to sound. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Someone is forcing their way into the sect. The disciples of the Jiaxing Pavilion all rushed out with weapons in hand. The purple-robed elder's expression shifted. He clearly didn't think that there would be someone who would dare to oppose the Jiaxing Pavilion in this day and age. Was he tired of living? Let me see who dares to do this. A pair of purple wings appeared on the purple-robed elder's back as he flew toward the location where the battle was taking place. Oh, a man and a woman? The purple-robed elder flew through the air and circulated his energy in his dantian before roaring, "Who are you? How dare you barge into the Jiaxing Pavilion? Surrender!" Whoosh! A streak of blue light flashed past. The purple-robed elder was sliced in half, and he had successfully completed his mission. Enlin and the Holy Moonlight Goddess were able to kill anyone who stood in their way. They were actually two gods of slaughter as they slaughtered their way to the highest pavilion in silence. Boom! The formation of the pavilion glowing with purple light was broken, and the two of them swaggered in. The pavilion lord, Ling Xiangla, sat on a chair and looked at the two newcomers in silence. His expression finally changed slightly at the sight of the two of them, as if they were immortal Tao companions who had descended from the heavens. Beside Ling Xiangla was an elderly man in a red robe. He was the Grand Elder of the Jiaxing Pavilion, Yi Chongshan. Two battle sages was enough to strike fear into the hearts of the vast majority of forces on the continent. However, the man and woman standing before him couldn't even be bothered to put on a serious expression. Sword Immortal and Lin, Holy Moonlight Goddess, I don't recall that the Jiaxing Pavilion has ever provoked the two of you. We've always minded our own business, so why have you come to our sect? Ling Xiangla identified the two of them as soon as he spoke. After all, they were the only two lawless people on the continent. However, Ling Xiangla didn't think that they would even dare to provoke battle sages. And Lin stood on the spot with a righteous expression. You haven't provoked us, but the Jiaxing Pavilion recruits over 100,000 disciples every year, and none of them return. In the past 2 years, the situation has only worsened. I came to the Jiaxing Pavilion to take a look, but there are only about 1,000 disciples in the sect. Where are the others? This is making me very nervous. Yi Chongshan's eyes narrowed slightly as a vast and powerful aura swept toward Lin like a mountain. You're going to meddle in other people's business? And Lin's expression remained calm and unaffected in the slightest. He spoke with a righteous expression. I'm a partner of justice, a sword immortal who enforces justice on behalf of the heavens. I fight for justice when I see injustice. Why can't I meddle in this? Ling Xiangla's lips twitched. Holy F asterisk CK, what a lunatic. Yi Chongshan. Let's do it. Boom. This battle sage's terrifying aura exploded forth like a ferocious tidal wave, causing ripples to appear in the space around it. And Lin wielded his evil-slaying sword and stood beside Su Qinyun as he also unleashed his powerful aura. Gale force winds swept forth as the two auras clashed violently, creating a thunderous explosion that made the entire Jiaxing Pavilion tremor violently. Thus, an earth-shattering battle erupted at the Jiaxing Pavilion. Chapter 323. Ling Xiangla gripped his seven-star sword and slashed toward Lin. The sword projection was imbued with the power of the seven-star sword and was extremely dazzling. It was like a purple waterfall that was imbued with the power to slice through all things in its path. In the face of this powerful sword projection, Lin's expression remained unchanged. Boom! The sword projection exploded as a purple light extended for several hundred feet, slicing the entire pavilion in half. And Lin's blood churned violently as he was struck by the sword projection, and he stumbled back a few steps as he evaluated the power of his attack. This attack from Ling Xiangla was comparable to a full-force attack from a soul formation intermediate stage cultivator. It looked like this battle sage was a bit more powerful than he had imagined. Whoosh! Su Qinyun also sprang into action. The faint blue moonlight disk leaped through the air and appeared before Yi Chongshan in the blink of an eye. Yi Chongshan took half a step back, and the necklace of crimson beads around his neck suddenly opened. 99 beads hovered in midair, forming a red defensive spell formation that enshrouded Yi Chongshan's body while exuding a mystical energy. The moonlight disk struck the red spell formation, and a sharp screeching sound erupted, but it was unable to break through. Su Qinyun's expression darkened as she increased her power. The blue light from the moonlight disk became darker, and cracks instantly began to appear on the crimson defensive spell formation. Yi Chongshan's expression shifted drastically as he clapped his hands together and roared, "Divine beads, return!" The crimson beads quickly flew through the air while emitting scorching flames to form a phoenix flaming body before pouncing towards Su Qinyun. Boom! The flames completely exploded, incinerating everything around them into nothingness. The majestic pavilion was completely reduced to rubble by the phoenix flaming body. And Lin cast a concerned glance toward the sea of flames in the distance to find a woman protected by the moonlight disk leaping into the air from the sea of flames. Her hair danced in the wind, and he could see that she was a little disheveled, but she was not severely injured, which made him heave a sigh of relief. You can't even protect yourself, and you still have time to worry about other people's lives? Ling Xiangla's voice suddenly sounded. In the blink of an eye, a series of extremely sharp sword slashes came crashing down. The sword radiance crisscrossed, and just the aftershock alone was enough to cause mountains to collapse and the earth to crack. When the disciples of the Jiaxing Pavilion saw the earth-shattering battle at the summit, some of them fled in panic, while others looked into the distance, their hearts in shock. Ling Xiangla's sword qi was like a rainbow, and its power was boundless. And Lin relied on his powerful sword Dao foundation to resist, but he was completely suppressed. At this point in the battle, Ling Xiangla's expression had become extremely grave. This is too strange. You're not using battle qi. Who the hell are you? Dead people shouldn't talk so much. And Lin's eyes suddenly turned snowy white, and streams of white wind began to revolve around his evil-slaying sword. His body flew through the air like a gust of wind as he slashed a white line through the air. First style wind sword. He already had a rough idea of the combat prowess of a battle saint. so he would not hold back any longer. In that instant, Ling Xiangla felt the aura of death. He immediately bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Blood-refined star slash. The seven-star sword was activated by his blood energy, and a purple glow erupted forth as it instantly clashed with the wind sword. Boom! Two powerful auras clashed, and the ground within a radius of 100 feet was completely pulverized into dust. Ling Xiangla and Lin were both knocked back by the violent power of the collision. Ling Xiangla stared at Lin with lingering fear in his eyes. If he hadn't used his trump card in the nick of time, perhaps he really would have been killed by Lin. His eyelids then twitched as he saw streams of white wind revolve around Lin's sword again. First style wind sword. Ling Xiangla cursed in his heart as he bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Blood-refined star slash. A purple glow erupted from the seven-star sword before clashing with the wind sword again. Boom! The two of them were knocked back again, and Ling Xiangla was on the brink of fainting. At this moment, streams of white wind revolved around Lin's long sword again. First style, wind sword. Ling Xiangla's vision darkened as he bit the tip of his tongue again. Blood-refined star slash. The result, he discovered that there was no blood essence left in his tongue, and there was no blood essence left in his seven-star sword. An expression of shock appeared on his face as boundless remorse and horror welled up in his heart. No! Ling Xiangla raised his sword to defend himself, only to find that his speed and power were far inferior to the evil-slaying sword. Splat! Blood splattered through the air as Ling Xiangla fell to the ground with an expression of indignation on his face. The mighty battle sage, the pavilion lord of the Jiaxing Pavilion, Ling Xiangla, had fallen just like that. Yi Chongshan had also been forced into dire straits by Su Qinyan. The moonlight disk, which had both offensive and defensive capabilities, made Su Qinyan invincible. Yi Chongshan stumbled back in retreat, and a determined expression appeared on his face at the sight of Ling Xiangla's death. Demonic star flame. Yi Chongshan roared as he stomped his foot into the ground, and a vast burst of battle chi surged into the mountain before traveling along a certain path toward the center of the mountain. He had no way out now. Even if he were to suffer backlash from the demonic star flame, he had to make use of this power. Rumble. The mountain began to tremor violently. Soon, a pillar of purple flames broke through the mountain and soared into the sky. Boundless flames threatened to incinerate the heavens, transforming the entire sky into a sea of purple flames. There were specks of white, true flames floating above the scorching sea of flames, as if they were the dazzling stars in the sky. And Lin's expression finally became grave as he stared at the purple flames. He could sense a dangerous aura emanating from the flames. Ha ha! The demonic star flame is one of the 4 divine flames on the Jiangxi continent. Its existence is the biggest secret of our Jiaxing Pavilion, and even the battle god doesn't know about it. It's a good thing that you're able to die to these 4 divine flames. Yi Chongshan chortled with glee as his skin began to flush red, as if he had been possessed. Ding dong! Right at this moment, the system in Lin's mind suddenly lit up. His eyes lit up, and he immediately opened the system. Detected that host has begun to come into contact with divine flames. Now assigning the following special mission. Absorb the 4 divine flames of the Jiangxi continent, and can use the wings of true fire cultivation method to do so. Mission success. Receive stage 2 wings of true fire cultivation method. Mission failure. Be burned for 3 days. Note, time limit, 1 month. This mission cannot be rejected. And Lin's expression faltered upon seeing this mission, and he cursed in his heart. F***CK. These divine flames were way too cheap. Xiao Huahua could become the Flame Emperor after collecting all of the divine flames, but he only received a stage 2 cultivation method after collecting all of the divine flames? What a scam. If he made a mistake in collecting the divine flames, he could applaud the snake beauty. If he failed to collect all of the divine flames, he would be burned for 3 days as a heretic. Just as Enlin was grumbling to himself, Yi Chongshan also sprang into action. You will all be reduced to ashes by my demonic star flame. Yi Chongshan waved his hands through the air, and the purple flames in the sky surged. Demonic star devour. Boom! The monstrous purple flames began to materialize into a flaming dragon with 2 horns on its head. As soon as the purple flame dragon appeared, its scorching aura caused the air around it to twist and warp, and all of the plants on the mountain ranges to spontaneously combust. Su Qianyun gritted her teeth as she looked up at the purple dragon in the sky. She was just about to charge into the air when a pair of large hands held her back. "Allow me." A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face. The purple flame dragon opened its cavernous mouth before pouncing toward the 2 people on the ground with the power to incinerate all things. Enlin stomped the ground violently, and his body shot forth like a cannonball toward the purple flame dragon. Ha ha! What a lunatic! How dare he face the power of the divine flames head-on? Demonic star flame, burn him to death. Yi Chongshan chortled with excitement at the sight of Enlin about to clash with the purple flame dragon. A sense of exhilaration welled up in his heart, as if he had just avenged a powerful enemy. The power imbued within the divine flames was something that even battle gods had to take seriously. The man charging toward the divine flames would definitely be reduced to ashes by the power of the divine flames. In the next instant, Yi Chongshan's smile froze on his face, and his eyes widened in shock, creating an extremely comical sight. What the F***CK is going on? He stared at the purple flame dragon as if he had seen a ghost, and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. In the sky above, the purple flame dragon opened its cavernous mouth to clash with Enlin. Flames swept through the air, and Enlin also opened his mouth to devour the purple flame dragon's head.